I don't think it's projecting onto the.
Yes. You're into the neighbor's Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Are you ready to go? All right.
Mike, Bonnie?
Town of Monroe Planning Board, our regular meeting. Noreen, could you please do the roll call?
Arrow?
Here.
Wade? Bonnie Franson?
Here.
Jason Swinsky is absent. Jeff Manson?
Here.
John Allegro is absent. And Pat Shea?
Here.
Thank
All right.
you.
With that, we have a quorum to conduct business. I'd like to point out the fire exits. There are two in front of me, one on either side of the room here, another which is a main entrance that we all get access through, and then another in this direction out to the patio. So with that, could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the We go. Yay, finally. All right. First item on the agenda, DG Management, please. It's par for the course now that we have to wear masks again.
Yes.
Switch on the top. And then bring towards you. Welcome. If you just state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. David Higgins from Lankin Tully Engineering and Surveying, in for John Queenan, who's good for him, away on vacation this week. So I'm here to represent the application.
Is there anything you want as far as comments
So,
before we get into the review?
Well, I know that there's a few things that, that we are working on still. I know that the last few things that came up were with regards to SHPO. There was a letter that was received from SHPO that indicated, potential cultural resources. So they basically wanted a Phase 1A evaluation. So our office is coordinating with an archaeologist to provide that report.
We don't have a copy of that. We're not aware of that.
Oh,
I don't think.
I thought you were aware that SHPO had no, okay.
No, in fact, we weren't certain whether you had coordinated at all, so we were actually going to start the SHPO process, so.
Okay, yeah, so apparently, the planner from our office actually did submit sort of the preliminary, documentation to SHPO through their on-site, their website. And basically, they came back with, they wanted, because the site's obviously been disturbed, the trees have been cleared, and so they're asking for either proof that the trees had been previously cleared or a Phase 1A. And I don't think we can provide anything that shows that it was previously cleared, so we're working on a Phase 1A to submit back to SHPO.
All right, who are you retaining, do you know?
I think it's Alchemissa who's we're trying to get to do the evaluation. Yeah.
Tracker Archaeology?
Yes, Tracker Archaeology, yes, yeah.
Okay, all right, so that's SHPO, that's good, because that was one of the items on my list.
So I do know, there was some other things that we were going through. We did actually have WSP did complete the well testing portion of the hydrogeologic analysis. They have provided us with an email, which I don't believe is submitted to you yet. We just recently received it. But basically, it indicates that they had enough quantity in the wells, no significant drawdown observed. They're waiting on the water quality results. They took the samples, sent them off to the labs. They're waiting for those to come back. They should have those in 1 to 2 weeks. And so they'll finalize their report, and we'll submit that to the town for the town's review. But the good news is like I said, they did not have any, what they determined to be a significant drawdown in any of the off-site wells.
So then, at some point, you'll be submitting the hydrogeologic report with
Yes.
the conclusions?
Yes, probably 2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3?
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't have a time frame for the CAMISA report? You're just right now trying to get?
I don't know that yet, yeah, no,
Okay.
that I don't know.
Okay.
Hopefully it won't be long. And then the last thing also, I think there was Steve Esposito was working with us on the project, did a landscaping plan. I believe he had submitted that to Karen Arendt. I don't know if she had provided anything back to the board, but.
Yeah, I reached out to her the end of last week and today, and I wasn't able to get any comments,
Okay.
so.
Yeah,
All right, I'll send an email to her.
Okay, yeah. My understanding is she reviewed everything with Steve. She initially asked for a couple of minor revisions. Steve took care of those, and my understanding is she's accepted the plan. But again, I understand you're going to need something from her. So where we were, I think, was we were trying to proceed with SECRA and the Part 2, and hopefully the drafting of a resolution for negative declaration, hopefully. Obviously, that's what we're hoping for.
So I know, I'll just add to this that I had a communication with the ZBA chairman because they're an involved agency, given the fact they're issuing or reviewing variances for potential issuance. And I know they're going to have some seeker-related comments, but I checked with them today, and I did not hear back from Mike. So we have not received those. But if you could, Noreen, send an email to Mike tomorrow and just ask them if they have seeker comments. We're looking for them. And I think it has to do with grading stormwater, really stormwater, and the road interface between coming into the village of Monroe and into the town of Monroe. So I think with that, why don't we start with a review comments, Sean and Ashley, and then we'll go from there.
Really, the plans haven't changed substantially since last time. They did address some of the items that I had raised last time for the SWIP, but there are some outstanding. I had the opportunity to meet with John and Lipa at the, in between the last planning board meeting and this one. They are working on a few of those items, but at this point, really, that's the substantial amount of the technical items left from my perspective. Going along the lines of what Bonnie was mentioning about the road interface, I just asked that the applicant submit the filed subdivision plat that I believe it's filed
Yes.
within the village, just so that we can confirm that the road elevation that's proposed in the village matches, which John, has said that's what he's designed from, so that we just, do our due diligence to make sure that that was met. And confirm that the drainage, since all the drainage from the roadway will be coming into the village via the proposed roadway within the village, we just want to make sure that the proposed drainage to be discharged to the village. So, realistically, that's the bulk of my comments for this meeting.
Okay, Ashley?
Since the last meeting, you did receive the comments from the Orange County Planning Department. I don't know if you wanted to pull those up and go over them. They did have 2 binding comments and then a few advisory comments. One of the advisory comments is about the archaeological, which the applicants indicated they're addressing with SHPO, so that was something that they wanted to see happen. The binding comments have to do with the sewer and water capacity. So there's, and you have it up there on the screen. So the property is in Orange County Sewer District number 1, but the planning department has made this comment up here referring to the Moona Basin sewer agreement, and any increase in capacity, the planning board would have to ensure that it's still within those limits. I guess I'm paraphrasing. That's an issue where I did reach out to the planning department to see whether that is meant to be an issue, since this property is within the Orange County Sewer District number 1, because in the past, these comments or these types of comments were given for properties that were outside of the sewer district. So I am still working with them to hopefully get a response. I'm waiting for someone, I believe, from the county attorney all about that.
Okay.
That's something that you'll have to have squared away, of course, before you could move forward with seeker.
So would you send these comments to Frank Getchell, since he's looking at the water supply?
don't
Just to
know that
make
he's
sure,
gotten them.
and also, Dave, just to make sure that, especially with regard to the 5 bedrooms, I'm sure it was done as far as taking that into consideration, but just in case there has to be some kind of recalculation in terms of capacity, so that we've addressed that Orange County comment. I think the version I have here is the 1-sheeter. There was a reverse side, right?
Yeah. Based on my notes, I know that John had said that the Orange County Sewer District had already approved the sewer extension. So I don't know if you're aware of that also. I would imagine that you would be.
All right, could you repeat that, Dave?
John had advised me that the Orange County Sewer District already approved the sewer extension. Apparently, they reviewed it and already approved it.
For this specific project?
That's my understanding, yes.
John
have
had
that?
relayed that to me when he and I had met a couple weeks ago.
But
So
we don't, do we have any evidence of that?
I don't believe we have that letter.
Well, I'll certainly ask John to provide Sean you with a copy of that.
Or if you could send it to Noreen, have them send to Noreen, and then Noreen can send to all of us.
Got it, okay, yep.
Thank you. So that's sewer capacity, water capacity, and then we have environmental constraints. So they mentioned the typical requirements for the bat species. In this instance, a lot of the site was clear cut, so if anything, we're trying to remediate that through the landscaping plan. Open space. They mentioned the importance of it. Protect the land designated as open space by restricting with the conservation easement or acquisition by the town or conservation organization, including Orange County Land Trust or New York State PIPSI. Certainly, we're going to be restricting it with the conservation easement, and that it'll be enforceable by the town of Monroe. I don't think at this point the town, anyone's offering it up for dedication.
I don't believe, and I've spoken with John about that, about if you wanted to start that process, speak to the town, whether it's something they wanted to hold, be the easement holder, but it does have to be someone that, it's either the town or someone, agency that's acceptable to the town. So that's something that's required by your conservation regulations for cluster subdivisions.
Access, they mentioned cul-de-sac in the village. Cul-de-sac exists on paper but has not been constructed. 4 lots that are adjacent to the paper road have constructed driveways for individual use. So I kind of want to understand this, and I don't know if, Sean, you had a chance to be out there. So is there just like a, or Dave or someone, is there just like a kind of a private road out there, but they never finished construction and everybody has driveways coming into the, including the new lots, the driveway's already there?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a private road, it may be, I'm not sure, but I know there's
Well, actually, I
gravel drive that goes into that area.
Yeah, so there's supposed to be improvements made. The map was filed, as far as I know. I guess I don't know if houses have been constructed onto which driveways are now there. I know that in some conversations with the village that I've had, my understanding is they don't plan on accepting the road. So something that we've talked about here is the contingency of if the village does not accept that cul-de-sac for maintenance, then we have to figure out if a town road can come out to a private road and what happens.
So what you're saying, I believe, if I'm following, is that the portion of that cul-de-sac that's within the village, even though it was on an approved subdivision map filed and bonded, that your understanding is that the village does not want to accept the dedication?
I'm not aware of the bonding. My understanding is that even though whenever you file a plat, unless there's a note indicated on the plat, that it's not up for, I guess, dedication, that all roads are offered for dedication.
So unless there's a note saying that it's not being offered, then it is offered by the filing of the map, but the town or the village has to accept the dedication. It's not automatic.
Right, so I'm not sure that the village is going to accept it based on what was communicated to me. However, I think we need to follow up, because if there was a filing of a bond, I don't know if that was just to ensure that the private road gets constructed or if it was bonding for a public road. So I think we just need to get more research into that.
Yeah,
And
John
maybe-
had told me he understood that the bond was posted, but again, I mean, that's just
I
what he told me.
believe he had mentioned that last time, but I think it wasn't clear to us whether, well, the road's not constructed, so of course it wasn't accepted for dedication yet, but I guess what's happening with the village acceptance, and then whether the town road or whether then this portion could be a private road.
Right, I think that's the big question, so that if the village, in fact, is not going to accept the cul-de-sac and that remains private, can a town road go into the private road, or is it going to have to be a private road going into a private road? I don't know the answer. I mean, this is all relatively, we talked about this at the last meeting, and we asked John to follow up, but I had a conversation with the village attorney. And I was getting a sense that they weren't going to accept it, but again, I think we need something in writing, one way or the other. I think we need something in writing from the village, one way or the other, so that we can appropriately plan and set up whatever's required.
I've reached out to the village attorney and the village planning board attorney to see what they know about this, and asking for the prior resolutions as well that were approved. So I'm still waiting for more information from them. So if there's anything, on your end that you could get, that would be.
Okay.
So that has to do with access, and then we've already discussed the archaeological resources. So really, the key as far as the planning board from a decision-making perspective is the first two have to be addressed. If they can't be, then it would be a supermajority to be able to modify or to the comments.
Right. I do know that John had mentioned some of the comments to me, but I don't know for certain that we have a copy of that county letter.
Okay.
Unless, Noreen, you know that you sent it to
I
John.
already sent it.
Got it. Okay, I just want to make sure we had it.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you want us to send, we can again. If
No, I'm sure if you sent it, I'm
I
sure
sent it
John
to
has
John,
it.
I sent it twice because I did single-sided and then double.
Okay. Thank you.
that's the first one I pulled up, of course. Ashley, were there other comments now?
Nothing really that major. There's a couple of comments I have on the tree plan and the notes. Some of the language was changed on those, so I could email, I think that's the easiest way, just the specific language to change those. And also, I think it's referenced in Sean's memo as well that the trees being removed, so that's noted on, I think, the erosion sediment control plan, but if we're calling the landscaping tree plan, the tree plan for purposes of your preservation law, then it should be on there showing which ones are the trees that are being removed and then what's being added. If it's on a one-to-one basis, just making sure the numbers match up. So that's all specifics in the tree preservation law that just need to be worked out, those details. As far as seeker, I know this board, you had started to look at the part 2 when you were deciding what kind of additional information you wanted the applicant to submit. There's a couple of things that we talked about tonight as far as the water, sewer issues that would have to be figured out before you could make any determination of significance, but I don't know whether you want to review the part 2 again and go through
Full EAF or?
a full EAF.
So I'll bring up the full EAF so we can start to look through that. But having said that, just a quick comment. Right now, the way the open space is shown, you have the proposed open space A and proposed open space B that are shown on the map. And the Orange and Rockland utility easement is not showing up as anything. I think it's, I don't know if it's part of one of the lots,
Part of Lot 1,
part of Lot 1.
right?
And my question is, so that these homes don't encroach upon that area, should that be included, in as much as it doesn't count toward open space, should it be part of the open space? And it doesn't have to be answered today, it's just a question, because it can't be really used anyway. So why not just have that as part of the open space?
Yeah, I think the open space lines up with that, because there's a dashed line. If you look at sheet 2, it shows the extent of the easement.
Right, because I'm looking at this here.
So you're saying it should be shaded the same as the open space?
Yeah. Right, so here, this is the open space, right? This is open space.
Right.
And this area is, you're saying, part of Lot 1, although this dashed line really doesn't reflect that well.
Right.
There shouldn't be a dashed line. If it's all attached to Lot 1, these should be solid lines. But for the purposes of not encroaching into this area, I would suggest that this open space lots just be brought around and this show up as open space too. So something to bring back to your, to
I guess
your
the
client.
only comment Right now, I would have on that is that O&R obviously would be able to do whatever,
Right.
you know, is allowed under their easement. So it would
Absolutely.
be almost a subset of the open space because you're going to have, you know,
Right.
probably different restrictions you're going to want on the other
Yes.
pieces, so.
Agreed. Yep. It has more to do with not, Lot 1 suddenly not encroaching into this area, because this is a cluster subdivision, and that's, you know, that the intent of this lot is for them to stay within this area. So I think if we show this as a different, as you're saying, suggesting subset of open space, with just a map note, not conservation easement, but with a map note, I think that'd be useful.
So you're suggesting to use the same hatch that we have for the open space and then have a note that distinguishes the easement area as separate from open space area A and open space area B?
Maybe just a different hatch pattern or some kind of, again, just designating that this is open space, except to the extent which aren't, it's within an Orange and Rockland utility easement right away, something to that effect. And we could figure that out.
And because it doesn't qualify as open space, though, for the town's
No.
purposes, right? Do you
No.
want us to not call it open space, or do you want
Yeah,
us
I'm
to call it
thinking we
open
should
space and
call
qualify
it
it?
open, well, we should come up with the language so that that's not confusing.
So it doesn't match non-existent hatching of the lot.
So, all right, so come up with a
So that it's restricted.
different hatching.
And that it's restricted, but it's not open space somehow.
Okay. I mean, it's the easement area, I guess. We could
Okay,
call it
but-
the easement area and then just say it's no disturbance permitted other than as required. I don't, you know, for,
Let-
by the,
let's- I was just looking at it, so let's get back to you on that.
okay.
And just reach out to us too, so that we keep that moving. Go ahead, Anthony.
My question is, would the bounds for Lot 1 include the boundaries for the Orange and Rockland property?
It does.
But,
That's what
yep.
the intent is. So you could see it says open space B within Lot 1, open space A within Lot 1. That's so that it all remains contiguous. So really, these lots need to be solid in here. And this is the boundaries of the cluster lot, and the areas around it are attached, but they're not intended for development or for encroachment.
Okay. And out of curiosity, would the assessment for that property include all that area?
Would, but
Yeah.
I don't know what the value of that would be as a residential lot.
Yeah, I think there's limits you have on open space. I think there's limits on the assessed value that you can put on open space lands, I think. So they would have to take that into consideration.
Right, so that lot would be, you know, whatever the acreage is, 5 acres.
And then they would take into consideration this easement,
The two easements.
and then the open space easement,
Right.
yeah. Thank you. So I'm gonna do a search here. If I start filling this out now, it's not saved. It won't save anything. All right. So going through the full EAF. Impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. Yes. And in general, when you fill these out, there is guidance that says if a project exceeds a numeric threshold contained in a question, it should result in the reviewing agency checking the box moderate to large impact. That doesn't mean we're going down the EAF route or that it's a significant adverse impact, but there needs to be a response provided in an EAF Part 3. So if we say, proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet, I don't think that's occurring, as far as I know. If anybody, this is going to be a draft, so we can reconsider it. Proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater.
That's true.
Proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed and generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. Proposed action may involve the excavation or removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. Is it more than 1,000 tons? Proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or multiple phases. Do you recall? It's probably going to take more than a
Phasing?
year.
Yeah, they probably, I'm sure there's a question in the EAF about the scheduling, the anticipated construction. Let me see what John had in here.
I think for now we'll say moderate.
Don't too, which it's, the way that the form is, I'm not the biggest fan, but you have that first category where it's not just no, it's the no or small. So on other projects, sometimes what I would do is do an asterisk to say, you know, it's neither, you're not, that's, I'm sorry, would indicate a small impact versus, you know, if it doesn't fit quite in that moderate, so.
Because some of these are qualitative questions.
Exactly,
So, yeah,
yeah, there's the
not numeric.
workbook that's helpful with that, the FEF.
So proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal. I would say that's large. Proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard. I would say no. Any other impacts? I think for impact on land, that's probably it, but we can always go back. Impact on geological features. Proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of, I gotta take this off, or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms, cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves. And this really has to do with significant geologic features, ones that are like on natural landmark, things like that. So I would say no, because even though there's impacts to landforms, they're not of the nature that this proposal or this item contemplates. Impact on surface water. Proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. So I'm going to say no, but let's look at these quickly. Create a new water body. I don't think that that includes stormwater basins, does it?
What's being ground filtration?
Okay. Proposed action may result in increase or decrease of 10%. Surface water, no. Proposed action may involve dredging, no. If we go through these quickly. Not surface water, not wastewater to safe surface water. Proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation. That one actually would be a yes, but I would say that that is a, see, this is where it becomes a pain, I agree, Ashley. There should have been a third column, like the all knows. All right. This one is a no, but proposed action may affect water quality of any water bodies within or downstream. I would say that's probably a no. Pesticides or herbicides in or around any water body? I don't think so. Construction or new expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities?
Actually, could be, yeah.
Of existing, okay. Put an asterisk. If anybody disagrees or has other thoughts, let me know. I don't have other impacts here. Actually, I just want to put here, is there anything that earlier dealt with blasting or bedrock?
That dealt with it.
Yeah, I don't remember. Just for now, let's put potential blasting. And I don't know, do we want to say they're not actually, I don't think you are blasting. I think that was that's where we landed, right? Right now, we're not doing any blasting? Do you recall,
I'm
Dave?
looking at the EAF to see what John had filled out.
Could-
I can't find the area
there gonna
of
be some?
the document.
I don't think so either. I'm gonna put no to small right now. I don't think there is, but
Yeah, I guess based on the soils mapping, bedrock is generally more than 5 feet deep, for whatever that's worth.
impact on groundwater may result in new or additional use of groundwater. That's a yes, right? Proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demand. I'm going to put no or small because we've had the water testing, right?
Quantity test.
Yeah. Water supply demand from the proposed action may exceed safe and sustainable. Let's say no for now. This is all subject to getting the well report. Proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer service. Without water and, that would be a no. There is sewer service. Proposed action may include or require wastewater discharge to groundwater. I think that's a no. May result in the construction of water supply wells in locations where groundwater is or suspected to be contaminated. We don't have water quality results back, right? So
Not yet, no.
I'm going to leave that one blank. Proposed action may require bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over groundwater or on aquifer. What were we doing as far as, are we using heating oil or propane, or was there gas mains?
That I don't know. Do you know that, Lipa? Is there gas? Is there gas available? Gas available is what he's saying.
It is gas? All right. We just need to check that. No. Proposed action may involve commercial application of pesticides. Nope. Okay, so those are the responses. Impact on flooding. Proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. We don't have floodplains, I don't believe, on this property, right? Impact on air. Proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. This is, unless there's something about construction impacts, this generally doesn't get triggered, given the size.
Standard construction.
So, yeah, it says may include a state-regulated air emission source. I was saying no. Impact on plants or animals. Proposed act may result in the loss of flora and fauna. I would say yes. Reduction in population, loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species. I'm going to say moderate to large, but then I think you haven't. Do we have an evaluation?
They have the map note for the, no clearing between
Right.
April 1st and.
Restricted tree clearing, yeah.
So that can be answered part of a part 3. Proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat. Actually, it should probably be habitat. I think that's more appropriate. May cause reduction in population, loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need. I'm pretty sure I've asked John to get us a natural heritage letter. Did we get the natural heritage program letter? So we need a letter from Natural Heritage Program.
Okay.
That one open. So Natural Heritage Program is just, it's a DEC program. It isn't, they will identify species that may be in or adjoining the site that aren't necessarily showing up on the EAF, either because it hasn't been cited in several years, there's not enough information, but we need to get that. Proposed action may result in reduction or degradation of any habitat used by species of special concern and conservation need. Again, that's why we need Natural Heritage Program letter. Proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered national natural landmark. No. May result in the removal or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community. Did the EAF identify?
I don't believe so, no, I'll confirm that.
It's,
Natural, let's see.
I don't think you are.
Yeah,
Always no.
That was no?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, natural landmark, no, critical environmental area, no.
Okay. May substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for predominant species? I would say no, or minor. Conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or other regionally or locally important habitat? I'd say no or minor. Proposed action involves use of herbicides or pesticides? No, because this isn't a commercial, industrial, or recreational project only. Agriculture may impact agricultural resources? No. You're not ag land and you're not in a ag district. Aesthetic. So this is where I feel like we just need to make sure that we're absolutely appropriately, the landscaping has taken care of potential views onto the site. And I think it's relative to the size of the structures that are being built, because the issue is that it's up high and we want to make sure that it's not popping up and highly visible. So I'm going to say yes. May be visible from officially designated federal, state, or local scenic or aesthetic resources. So I don't think that anything really has been submitted that goes through sort of the DEC methodology. They have a technical guidance that says, okay, these are the resources within a certain distance of the site from which it may be visible, and then, you know, based on some narrative and some evaluation, you say, but it's over 2 miles, or the topography is limiting. I think we need some
You mean a visual EAF?
more of visual EAF, a little bit of an assessment and narrative
Okay.
to be able to say that.
So you're looking to have us submit the visual EAF, which answers those questions?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Proposed action may result in the obstruction, elimination, or significant screening of one or more officially designated scenic views. I don't think that is happening. I don't think it's designated. Proposed action may be visible from publicly accessible vantage points seasonally or year-round. And I think that there's potential for that. So that's why we need some, I know one profile was provided, but that's where I think we just need additional support. Situation or activity in which viewers are engaged while viewing the proposed action is routine travel by residents, including travel to and from work. That is definitely a yes. I don't know if it's large or small. We'll just go large for now, but we could always change that. It's not generally recreational or tourism-based activities. Even though there's the park down at the base, there's not that much recreation going on there. I don't know if it's visible from the Heritage Trail. No? Okay. So I think that's a no, but we'll double check. So when you do the EAF, the Heritage Trail in particular, and one of the realities is that because there's a project proposed by the mobile station, it's going to take out vegetation. So I don't know with changes in that site, if it happens, if the potential exists to see the site now. Although they're going to put buildings in, so I think it's a general question.
If you're talking about from the Heritage Trail, I still don't think, if you're talking about the 208 Business Center, I don't think it's going to be an issue because of the YMCA building.
Okay?
So
But then as you come farther along, I don't know if there's an overpass, right?
yeah,
So if with the overpass at that point,
it's a fairly small opening in the,
In
you know,
the-
in the vegetation where you get to the end of the Gilbert Street extension anyway. I don't think it's going to have a significant impact. I've been walking that section of the trail a lot lately.
okay, and
Even if-
okay,
I'm fairly convinced that even if the vegetation goes between the new building that's there and the other existing vegetation and the other buildings on 208, it's minor. If you caught a glimpse of the project for 20 seconds on the Heritage Trail, it'd be a lot.
we'll leave it as small, no to small. And then again, if between now and when we get the visual EAF, people want to check it out, they can. Proposed action may cause a diminishment of the public enjoyment and appreciation of the designated aesthetic resource. I think we need the evaluation, so we can fill that out. There are similar projects visible within the following distance. And when we say projects, are we talking about land uses? There are similar projects visible. I think that's what that means. And there are. There's obviously residential projects and then other impacts. Okay, so visual is sort of an open item. Impact on historic or archaeological, that's an open item. So we'll get the cultural resources report. Impact on open space and recreation. Proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. So the county was suggesting that it was an open space resource, but that was, I think, at a higher level, not municipal. It's not a reduction in a loss of recreational opportunities because this is a private property. Oh, why don't we go through these? Proposed action may result in impairment of natural functions or ecosystem service provided by an undeveloped area, including but not limited to stormwater storage, nutrient cycling, wildlife habitat. I would say that's probably no to small. Proposed action may result in the loss of a current or future recreational resource. Let's say no. Proposed action may eliminate open space or recreational resource in an area with few such resources. I would say that's minor, only related to the open space. Proposed action may result in loss of an area now used informally by the community as open space. I think it's private, so, and I don't think the community is really using it informally. So we'll revisit that one as we go forward. Impact on a critical environmental area. Proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a CEA. I don't think there's a designated CEA there. And impact on transportation. Proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. Projected traffic increase may exceed capacity of existing road network. So we had the transportation evaluation done, but did we have anyone really review it?
Kind of discussed it that there wasn't a significant increase in traffic, plus the fact that the intersections didn't, degrade in letter grade, so.
May alter present pattern of movement of people or goods. Not really. Proposed action will degrade existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations. I don't think so. Proposed action will degrade existing transit access. I don't think so. Proposed action may result in construction of paid parking area for 500 or more vehicles. I would say no. May exceed capacity. I think that's going to be no to small. So I think it's yes, but I think because you're obviously generating traffic, but I don't think anything's large to moderate to large. Impact on energy. Proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. Yes. New or an upgrade to an existing substation. No. Result in the creation or extension of an energy transmission to serve more than 50 single or two-family residences. No. Proposed action may utilize more than 2,500 megawatt hours per year of electricity. I don't know what that is. I don't think so. Proposed action may involve heating or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet. No. And impact on noise, odor, and light. Proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odor, or outdoor lighting. So I'm going to say yes. Proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulations. Here I would just say construction. So it'll be temporary. Proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, etc. I believe there's no blasting. Proposed action may result in routine odors. No. Proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties. If there is, I think that's going to be minor. Proposed action may result in lighting creating a sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. I think that's yes, but probably minor. So it was really the lighting for me, which was, you know, construction noise and then outdoor lighting is being introduced, but, you know, they're residential in nature, and if we have, you know, notes about downlit lighting, et cetera, it should be good. Impact, did I skip anything? No. Impact on human health. Proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing contaminants within 1,500 feet of a school, hospital, licensed daycare, group home, nursing home, or retirement, because community, I don't think so. Let's just go through these. Undergoing remediation, no. Emergency spill remediation, I don't believe so. It's not subject to an institutional control. No hazardous wastes. It's not a solid waste management facility. May increase the rate of disposal processing, not really. A excavation. I actually think this is probably a no response to this whole unless someone thinks otherwise. And again, this is draft, so if you have thoughts afterwards, let us know. Consistency with community plans. Proposed actions land use component may be different from or in sharp contrast to current surrounding land use patterns. It's residential. It won't be a 5% increase. Proposed action is inconsistent with local land use plans or zoning regulations. I'm going to say that's small to no or small because of the fact they need a variance. Does that seem reasonable? Okay, so now we have to fill these out. The proposed action is inconsistent with any county plans or other regional land use plans. Proposed action may cause a change in the density development that is not supported by existing infrastructure or is distant from existing infrastructure. It is changing, I don't know that it's changing the density of development overall for the site, so it's going to be no to small. Proposed action is located in an area characterized by low density development that will require new or expanded public infrastructure. I would say that's no to small. Proposed action may induce secondary development impacts. No to small. Consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with existing community character. Replace or eliminate existing facility structures or areas of historic importance. That's a no. Create demand for additional community services. So I'm going to say this is a yes, and this is a yes, because you are generating people, but it's going to be. That would not be a major demand creation. Proposed action may displace affordable or low-income housing. I would say no. May interfere with the use or enjoyment of officially recognized or designated public resources. No. Inconsistent with predominant architectural scale and character. I'm actually going to say that's small, and we still have to just make sure we go over the plan submitted by Brock and Mann. Proposed action is inconsistent with the character of the existing landscape. I think we're still reviewing that. All right. Anybody have questions or comments or want to go back to any of these? And the asterisks just mean that there is some impact. So I'm going to save this.
And can you circulate it to the board? That way everyone will have.
I'll send it to Noreen, and then we can circulate around, and then everybody can look at it, and if you want to change, you know, we can discuss it at the next meeting. But that's just so we have a sense of where we are and what we need still in terms of analysis.
Can we get a copy of that too, please?
Yes, of course. All right. Anything else we should do this evening, Ashley? I think there's just still some outstanding items. Sure.
Lipadoj.
Hello?
Just to look on the Tom Cusack's report, when he put in, for the first report, when he sent to the county, he calculated 6 bedrooms total, maximum.
6
per unit.
bedrooms?
So
Okay.
So the second that, and this, so 6 bedrooms, so that will satisfy the county's, county.
Right. So I'm sure when we see the well report,
Yeah.
it'll have all the assumptions and
And the same
methodology.
thing as the sewer, yes, we got approval for the main from the sewer, and
Okay.
it's not in Mudna. And also to add the planning board in the village of Monroe, when they did the study, they confirmed, because the county was mentioning to do it a private road, and they were saying, no, it's going to be a public road.
I think the problem is that the planning board may have said that, but the village board is the one that accepts roads. And so my question is, did the planning board actually go to the village board and find out whether in fact they'll accept the road? And that's the key.
I did some research on that, and I have that, the village of Monroe never, ever said no
Right, but
to the
they,
roads.
it's
the
not that,
past.
right, they don't have to say no,
Yeah.
but they don't have to accept it.
They always accept, that was their policy for the village of Monroe. This is what, I didn't talk to the village.
Oh, that they always
themselves.
accept roads,
They
right?
always accept the roads. Done.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's something that Ashley's going to follow up with the planning board and the village board attorneys, because we're hearing obviously different messages. And for us to plan appropriately, so for instance, well, the road has to be improved one way or the other.
It is in the process to be approved.
Right,
Yes.
and then if it's not accepted by the village, we have a town road coming out into a private road, and so then what happens? And as I said, I think that there's a request to look at the grade change between that village road and the proposed road. So we have to do that and make sure that's addressed from an engineering perspective with
Yeah,
additional.
we'll submit
review.
the road, we'll submit it in the next submission.
Yeah, so make sure they send us the county, whatever the county said about being able to get the sewer extension.
Yes,
And
we'll-
only because
we'll send it to you.
we're
We'll
especially
submit it.
getting mixed messages from what they are and aren't allowing. So it's just useful if we have it on record.
I was making notes as we were going along, which
Great.
additional information you need, so I'll make sure I'll get that to John and he'll get that to Noreen.
Make sure with John, or whoever was working with SHPO, when they go to submit to SHPO, to include Noreen as a contact, so you'll start getting the emails from SHPO and you can access it.
Okay.
Bonnie, I have a question. Lots with on the lots with multiple family units, does each unit get a well, or just each lot get a well? And the same for sewer laterals, will they require 2 laterals for each unit, or
Right, no,
one
it'll
lateral for
be,
each unit?
yeah, it'll be one well line to the house, as well as one lateral, since the house will be owned by one owner. So it'll be internally plumbed to split the water use and the sewer collection.
Board members, do you have comments on the plans or anything that's submitted? No? Pat, anything?
No.
Lisa? Okay, so I don't have any other comments at this time, so we'll continue trying to close up these open items for seeker.
Great, okay. We'll get you the information and then we'll go from there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to suggest, if we can, if it's okay, and it depends on the applicants that are here, applicants' representatives. Let me see. The next item we have is J squared. And then, Mike, you're here for Palatine as well. But we have a quick item, I think it'll be quick, the Kestenbaum referral to the ZBA. Do you think we can get that done? Because I think Palatine and J squared are going to take longer. So this is just, we're making a referral to the ZBA, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Lee Lefkowitz from Zarin Steinmetz on behalf of
Okay.
Say your last name, please.
Lefkowitz.
Thank you. So, is there anything you want to state for the record before we do anything?
The only thing we wanted to state for the record is that we understand your board's position with respect to the letter from the building inspector. It's our position that we meet the frontage requirement as the building inspector indicated, and if the board differs on that, then we would be requesting a waiver from that requirement. And
Okay.
that's the only statement I wanted to make.
Okay, thank you. Did everybody get a chance to look at and to read Ben's determination? I think Noreen sent it around.
I didn't read it yet.
Okay, so let me bring it up. That was what I was saving right before this. Allison. This looks like it was the support, but not the actual letter.
It's in an email, and I saved it as a PDF. If you want me to just email it to you, if that's easier.
Yeah, why don't you do that right now, if you could, thank you. I thought we had a letter, though. Do we not? Is this all we have?
There were some other attachments to.
Yeah, I think the other document you had up was the attachments, where he had highlighted some things.
Okay, so that was this attachment.
But the determination itself was in the body of that email.
Okay. So Ashley, after reviewing the information given to me, it's my opinion the applicant satisfies the frontage requirement. I've attached the documents I used in my review. Reference section states, school shall maintain frontage on a major collector as identified in the Town of Monroe Comprehensive Plan update. Based on the comprehensive plan, Cromwell Hill Road is a major collector, and the word use is not mentioned as indicated in town code. Word usage. Word use and the word used refer to any purpose for which a lot or land or part thereof is arranged, intended, or designed to be used, occupied, maintained, made, etc. So, based on this, I don't feel that it's entirely on point, which is why I wanted some kind of additional determination. From my perspective, the intent when they said frontage on a major collector was not so that just the property would have frontage on the major collector, is that it would get access from the major collector so that a school or any other major facility wouldn't be going out onto a more minor local road. And yes, there's a waiver provision, but the reason, from my perspective, we should have the ZBA review it is because it could set a precedent for frontage. And so that's why I wanted it to be reviewed by the Zoning Board of Appeals, because lot, the definition of lot actually makes reference to frontage, and the way that it's written, it does relate frontage to access. So we only have a certain amount of time to be able to send this to the ZBA if we do want a determination from them. I think it's 30 days from
Yes, you have 30 days to appeal determination or decision of the building inspector. As the board, as a planning board, any board of the town is able to do that under state town law and under your code as well.
Okay.
So you would have to submit a notice of appeal and an application, whatever their requirements are, in order to get that, to effectuate that appeal. That's what you would have to do within the 30 days, but you'd have to, first step would be the board would have to authorize, or you would have to formally vote to appeal, and then to authorize the drafting of the application documents, whether that's by you, and authorize you to sign them as well, or both of us in conjunction if you would want my assistance in that.
Okay. Does everybody understand? Again, it has to do with maintaining frontage on a major collector, and from my perspective, it's what frontage is, and that based on lot one of the other definitions, frontage was intended to be where you get access, meaning transportation access from. Yes, this does front on a major collector. It's on, there's a piece of it that fronts to Cromwell Hill Road, but the access is not being gained from Cromwell Hill Road. And again, for me, I just want to make sure that frontage is reviewed in terms of intent and what the zoning, what the ZBA determines. Or if there is nothing clear, they'll make that determination too. So my recommendation is that we do appeal the decision to the ZBA so they can weigh in on this. So I would make a motion that we have this determination appealed and reviewed by the ZBA, and that we allow our planning board attorney to assist in drafting up and providing the supporting documentation to the ZBA so they can weigh in and decide upon our appeal. May I have I'll make the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
I could just add one more thing in
Sure.
that. So it would also be to authorize the planning board chair to sign the necessary documents.
Okay.
So it would be authorizing me to work with you to draft the paperwork and then to authorize you to sign. I'm just making that clear because there's not going to be a meeting in between now and then where the board's going to be able to then, review the actual
Right.
documents.
Thank you for bringing that up. So with the additional condition that I would be able to sign it, and we can circulate it just for review and comment before it goes to the ZBA among planning board members. We can do that. I know we have to be careful.
Yeah, and that's why, because you can't, anything that would have to be done in a meeting. I mean, we could, perhaps have an attorney-client meeting if there was something specific, but it would really be authorizing you to, us to
Sign
just
it.
prepare it and you to sign it without further review by this,
Board. Okay.
by the board.
Any discussion?
I was wondering what the alternative is. If they don't decide or we don't do this, then going forward, it would be up to the discretion of the planning board to determine what the,
So this would be the determination going forward that whenever, frontage is used in this sense where there's a requirement to have frontage, I think it's used in a few different special use permit criteria and elsewhere throughout the code, that frontage would be satisfied by having a portion of the property abut a road, even though it's not
getting
access, or
access.
you're not able to have access
Right.
from it.
And that's,
this
the
particular
issue.
situation has an existing dwelling on it. I mean, if it was a vacant corner lot, the applicant could choose which side is frontage.
well, if it was a vacant lot, the way this was designed is, this was a residential dwelling. It was part of a cul-de-sac subdivision, and it was designed for the driveway to go out to the minor, to the cul-de-sac
Right.
road.
that's-
The way
yeah.
that the school regulations are written is it says that the school, it doesn't say the property, or it says the school is to have frontage on a major collector road. And the point being that frontage meant access, that you'd be getting it from the major collector road because it can handle better the traffic. A collector road is a higher level road than a minor road. So it comes down to frontage and what the intent was as far as frontage is concerned. We can waive the requirement because it's specifically, I think, is a special use.
Special use permit criteria, you could waive it if
We
it's
can
not in
waive it
the,
if we want to.
if
We
it
don't
meets a
have,
certain standard,
Right.
it's waivable.
but the point is that it's not getting to what frontage means. And there isn't actually a definition of frontage. And it affects other reviews going forward. So if someone had, again, another situation where someone would subdivide a property, if it may front on multiple roads, which one, I'm not giving a good example.
I'm trying to think of,
So in
'cause
this
I think
case, we have the
circumstance-
house facing Allison Drive with a driveway, so we're assuming that's the frontage because that's where the driveway is going now, but it's not clear.
But
Well-
it also has a very, I think it's 17 feet long, that's immediately abutting Cromwell Hill Road, and therefore Ben's determination is that 17 feet meets the frontage criteria.
So it's right now getting its access from a something that's other than a major collector road. So there's different, I know it's in other special use permit criteria, I believe, as well, and appears elsewhere in the code where there's this requirement to have frontage on a specific type of road, whether that means access or the ability to have access, even if it's not, access, because I think that could be another question as well. What you were referring to, I think if you're a corner lot and you abut two different roads, then I believe, I'd have to look at it specifically, but which one is the front lot line? I think there's an option or a way to determine which that is.
Because right now, the front door is facing Allison and the driveway goes to Allison, but we're assuming that's the frontage because of that.
Well,
But it
it's
may-
because the word frontage is used in the school special permit. So where it fronts right now as a residential use is somewhat different than the requirement for a school to front to a major collector, and front meaning as in access. And because we're having these very discussions, that's why I think it's reasonable and appropriate to send it to the ZBA for them to interpret what is appropriate in terms of how to interpret frontage. Because it's not just about this particular application, it sets precedent for other potential applications down the road, and we want to be clear on what frontage is.
Going to the ZBA because that's their purview? Why not?
Yes.
It's the planning board purview.
So it's the zoning board that interprets the zoning law. This board, you don't
can't-
have the ability to do that. So at the first instance, it starts with the building inspector, and then it's ultimately the zoning board has that authority.
We don't. So you were asking, do we have discretion? Actually, we don't have discretion. That's why we need a clearer interpretation.
Okay, thanks.
All right?
About that as well. Is there a potential, because we were talking about the buses going in and then having to widen the driveway, like 26 or 28, is there a potential of using this as a one-way out if it's 17, was it 17 feet wide? This frontage on Cromwell?
That's, if I recall correctly, that's the distance that is abutting Cromwell Hill Road, but currently they would have to be put in an elaborate driveway in order to get up
Yeah, right,
from
right, right.
Cromwell Hill.
Right.
And that's why we
Or
could.
stone or gravel, it doesn't necessarily, I don't know that it would have to be paved in order to drive on it,
I think,
So-
yeah, so I think it's whether they have to get access from Cromwell Hill or not, that would be part of our site plan evaluation. But this is specifically, does frontage mean that's where you're supposed to get access from? And that's my contention, but based on the way that other definitions are written. But again, because we're going around and trying to interpret, it's best for the ZBA to give us solid determination going forward. And frankly, if ultimately, if it's unclear, it means that at some point, maybe the town board needs to change the zoning to be able to make it clear what frontage is. But at this point, we have to rely on the ZBA making that determination.
Listening, I just thought of it as possibly a potential exit. So
Yeah, no, I
just wanted to
appreciate
mention it.
that. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. So I made a motion. Did someone make a second?
Pat,
Pat? Would you do the roll call?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Pat Shea.
Okay, with that, the motion carries, so we'll send that off to the ZBA for review. And I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Getting back to our agenda.
plan for next month's ZBA, right?
Whenever we can get them on the agenda. Do we, they don't, now that we've decided to do the appeal, it has to get to them within the 30 days? Yeah, so we have to get that right away to them. Huh?
Submission is a week from next Tuesday.
Okay, I'm sure they'll make provisions for us, but we just have to get it in.
Yeah, I've
The
met-
application within
It's-
30
The
days.
application is due, I believe it's September 10th, is what I
No.
calculated it to be?
They're due on Tuesdays.
No, the 30 days.
Oh, okay.
So if
30
we,
days.
you know, if it's not in, or if they're not able to get it on, if it's, what days do they meet?
They meet, so September, their meeting will be September 28th. And
So then that would be
submission
in
date is the
advance of
31st
their
for them.
September, or out, how quick?
All right. Okay. A squared, Harriman Heights Road. How
Here we
are you?
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
All right, so last we were here, we had a site visit with the planning board to take a look at driveway locations. The planning board, at the last meeting we were at also, I guess, voted to accept the current layout of the driveways. We had some housekeeping items as it related to previous comment letters from your consultants, which I believe we've addressed. So we are here now before the board tonight with a hopeful consideration that you will schedule a public hearing for this project at the next available meeting, and we will also be glad to continue any other review comments that the board and/or its consultants may have.
Settle upon the driveways yet?
Yeah, it was voted on, I think, at the last meeting we attended. Unfortunately, I don't think you were.
I may not have been here.
You were not here at that meeting, yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah,
Yes, we
the
did.
board had proceed, or wished to proceed with the two separate driveways.
Okay.
Yeah, it was proceeding with the two separate entrances, getting them as close together as possible, assuming there's no restriction about side yard setback.
So why don't we start with Sean's comments?
They, obviously, they did get the driveways fairly close, as well as tried to get the utilities as, you know, in between the driveways and as closely together as they can. And actually, the water and sewer are separated by 10 feet exactly, so that's as close as they can get together. Regarding the bulk table, that appeared to be correct for the zoning use, as well as all the dimensions, you know, required dimensions appear to be correct. The provided dimensions. The next comment I had was about the stone wall that's through Lot 2. I know, Mike, last time you had mentioned it, you might have even provided a location of a relocation of the existing stone wall, and how it related to the scenic road. I didn't see that in this design set, but I didn't know if that was intended to be provided.
The intention was always to take the stone wall that's on the property and relocate it
Right.
along the frontage of the lots. If there's a note that needs to be added to further clarify that that's how it should function,
Or location provided
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking me then.
for the relocation.
Where will it be reconstructed?
I thought that was on, so this is the tree preservation plan. Can you go back to the grading plan? If it wasn't shown, I will certainly do that. Oh, you know what, it might have been, as I was redesigning it, I might
Closer to the
have
mic.
removed it and never put it back on, so we can certainly show that.
All right. Then the next comment I had was just some cleanup on the grading. Some of the topo lines didn't tie back in, and it was only, the proposed grading was only provided for the 2-foot contours, and there's 1 foot shown. Then just requesting that some steep slope stabilization be provided for erosion and sediment control. Comment about the tree preservation plan, whether or not
trees were going to be replanted on site?
We did discuss at the last meeting the consideration of trees being replanted once the work's done. The applicant doesn't take any exception to that. I don't know how the board would like to proceed with those trees being shown, and if we wanted to work together on what those locations should probably be. In between the driveways is going to be difficult simply because of the quantity of the utilities that are there and the fact that it's sewer and water, and roots really like sewer and water lines. The thought process was to kind of have the stone wall kind of in between the two lots, I should say in between the two driveways, and to add as much of the plantings for trees around the outside of the driveways. But if the board and its consultants have other ideas in mind, we would be glad to listen.
I think that the stone wall between the two may be especially effective. If you can't put plantings there, you're putting something there. But I definitely think we need to see additional trees planted. I think there's a requirement for replacement, so they need to be shown.
Yeah, you need to show and clearly state the number and type of new trees being added, and the replacement is supposed to be on a one-to-one basis, so whatever you're removing needs to be the same amount that you're replanting. Unless there's an option to seek I believe, a fee in lieu of that.
So I don't think we can replace the same number of trees simply because, again, of the utility lines between the two driveways. If there's a fee in lieu, if I'm not mistaken, it was like $750 per tree, which, well, I'm just going to say
I think
it's an excessive amount.
As far
per
as
tree.
adding it, it doesn't have to be added to this property. It could be added elsewhere in the town under the code, so I don't know whether that option's been utilized before, but
Yeah, I think the bottom line is it's a requirement of the code. And so if you want a waiver from it, or if a waiver is allowed, then it needs to be requested. But I think the plans need to show some amount of landscaping, because it is the scenic road. And then we go from there as far as fee in lieu, could it be planted somewhere else? But first we have to see how many trees are needed, how many could be planted here realistically, somewhere on the site, because you are doing grading, and then go from there.
Okay.
just a note on that too, because there was the tree survey table where you listed that, if you could have the totals as far as what's, there was no total that I saw, what's being removed and what's remaining.
It's not totaled up, but there is a column for now. I think you would add.
Yeah, I think the column's there, but I mean, to count those, it's kind of tedious. I think it's 117, but
Yeah, we
I don't
can do
know
that. We
if
can
you
do
could
that.
just put it, yeah.
So
put
we're,
a
but
number.
let me
I'm sorry, the X's, those are the trees that are being removed, or the ones that were actually surveyed?
X's are removed. Yeah,
Okay.
solid dots would be what's being planted.
So I really don't see why some of the trees are being removed within some of the side yards unless they're not in good condition. Because it's better to retain trees, especially if they have some growth, as long as they're healthy. In fact, once you start opening up the canopy, they actually may grow better, I guess, by opening up the canopy, but it depends on the tree, it depends on its condition. But I don't really know why, for instance, on the side lot line, so much is being graded out there.
So if I can see that 229, 230, and 231, can we just scroll to the tree table and just see if those are dead trees? That may be why they're on the left-hand side in the front. Yep, right there.
Yeah, there.
Right there. I think that says 229, 230, and 231.
Right.
So I'm just curious to see what's on that plan. On the table, I should say. Yeah, I'd have to double check why that is, unless we're grading into that area. I'm not sure, but it may be that we're grading into that area and I'm not able to preserve those trees. But I could certainly replant in that area. That would be an area that would be very easy to replant in.
Ashley? Sorry. So does the tree code allow for a combination of solutions where some replanting is done on the lot an opportunity may exist to do some plantings otherwise at the town's choosing on property that they select, if I remember correctly, and then possibly take a fee for some of the trees, where you kind of come up with a combined solution. Would the code provide for that?
Yeah, I believe so, because
Okay.
it, as far as the fee specifically, that's only for trees being removed and not replaced, so
Right.
that, alone,
Right.
you could replant as many as you can, and then if there's some you can't. And anywhere they would need to be planted, though, of course, as you know, it would have to be somewhere, it'd have to be property that the town owns or has control of, where you can't just go planting them on,
And-
willy-nilly.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, I thought you were done. And we're only quantifying the trees that are within that tree buffer, is that correct? Within the.
Oh, it's all the trees that are being removed within there should be the limits of disturbance, I guess, outlined on that. So there's two separate things. There's the tree preservation law, which is all the trees above a certain, there's a size, I don't have it in front of me, DBH.
I think it's 8 inches diameter.
Anything that falls in that category that's being removed is subject to that replacement on a one-to-one basis. And then there's the separate requirement for the scenic buffer, where you have to limit the disturbance as much as you can. I saw you had a map note added about that. I had a comment, because I think you called it the tree buffer zone, but it's really a scenic buffer zone.
Sure.
And I could email you some language that would be different, just explaining what it needs to say as far as what can and can't happen in that scenic buffer, and then also additional map language for the tree plan itself. There's specific map notes.
that'd be appreciated.
So I
Thank
could
you.
get that for you.
So then, moving to the utilities, regarding the sewer, Mike had submitted to the board a conditional approval regarding the technical aspects of the sewer connections. We do have that outstanding issue, similar to DG, regarding the county planning comments regarding the MUNA allocation. So that'll have to be resolved. We will need the DPW approval of the proposed driveways. I think there was an initial acceptance of the driveway locations, but I wasn't sure if these proposed driveways were considered for that approval.
There
Plan,
was-
or did they review something else?
They did review a different plan than this, but the locations are just about essentially the same.
So if we can just get something in writing from that,
Yep.
from county, that they're okay with the new locations. And so for water, there is a resolution by the Village of Harriman Board of Trustees that they're okay with, providing service as an outside user to these homes. So any conditional approval resolution should be conditioned on, acceptance. Ashley as well as the village. We already talked about the letter and,
So Ashley?
So as far as seeker, you did assume lead agency, I believe, at one of your last meetings. So one of the things we had talked about there, in order to make your determination, is that comment from Orange County Planning about the sewer. So that's, and I don't know if you heard when we were here before discussing it with the prior application, I've reached out trying to understand their position on why they're making this comment, this mandatory comment under GML for sewer when you're in Orange County Sewer District Number 1. So I don't know whether that's intentional or what's going on behind that, but that's something that obviously needs to be addressed in order to determine that you'll be able to get the sewer service that you need.
It's an
Orange-
interesting comment, since we have an approval from them also, from actually Orange County Sewer District Number 1. So I was I'm not sure I understand the comment from Orange County Planning myself.
And that's,
Have it
yeah,
in,
we're trying
did you
to-
have it in writing, Mike? I don't remember.
I sent an email to Noreen May 20th or the 21st.
Yeah, I think I do
circulate when
remember.
they come in. I'll verify.
Yeah, so they're technically complete. They keep asking me for 6 sets of the plans, and I keep telling them I'm not quite done yet with the sewer location. So I'll send it in to you when it's done, but we shouldn't have any issues with what's shown.
Orange County Planning Department also had a couple of advisory comments. One of them was about the environmental constraints, so the tree clearing notes as far as the bat habitat, and then they also had a comment about the spill incident. So I know the applicant had provided some information on that spill with the EAF Part 1. I don't know whether, because the county's saying, I think, there it is. They said it has not been resolved, so I don't know if they have something different or what that.
How close are we to,
It's several, that's at least a mile or
I
two,
was gonna say,
at least.
I don't, yeah.
It's the fact that they're not on their own.
I mean, I would know
Village
that
water.
So these
are
are-
advisory
Well,
comments.
no, those
Yeah.
bottom ones are advisory comments, but I was just making sure
Right.
the board was
So,
aware.
but we should go through them because they're the comments. So, so the one that we have to address, and again, we're getting these comments which seem to conflict, is this Moodna intermunicipal agreement. So we need to resolve that because that is a particular action that would require a super majority. And in the best of all worlds, we shouldn't have to override the county. Spill incidents, if they're talking about Sapphire School, that's so far away, it's not going to impact this project. Environmental constraints, this is suitable habitat, northern long-eared bat, et cetera. For that reason, among others, I think that we need to look at this site a little more critically as far as tree preservation. I think it's clear-cutting a little too much. Look at that. Proposed site plan shows one driveway per lot with a separation between them of approximately 54 feet. We advise town to work with Orange County Department of Public Works to determine whether the separation is sufficient or whether the applicant will need to propose a shared driveway or other measures. Did you ever speak to Orange County DPW about the driveways? I did. Okay.
I did, and they reiterated what Mike had
Had stated,
discussed.
okay.
Right.
Thank you, since I wasn't here. Project site has an overall slope of greater than 15%. Town should ensure proposed erosion control measures are sufficient, so that will be part of the plans. Side setbacks. Site plan shows both houses being built out to the full width of the building envelope. On each site, we advise the town to ensure that both homes are within the building envelope so that they will not require area variances. So you'll obviously have to build within the envelopes so that you avoid variances. So I don't think these are anything that's difficult to, they're not, we've discussed them, and so I don't think they're of concern, except the only one we have to follow up on is this Harriman wastewater treatment plant, Moodna intermunicipal agreement. And I don't recall when that letter came to us compared to when you had received a response from Orange County Sewer District. I don't know what the timing is, so.
It was actually prior to April 13th.
I think talking about the letter to the town from the county about the sewer issue in general and out-of-district users, that was, I want to say, October of 2020?
September 30th.
That was the first one. Didn't we get one that was more recent, though, also? Or that maybe it was just we were starting to get these comments coming through Orange County Department of Planning?
I think this was the first time this comment showed up for user, and then the same one just happened for DG as well.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, Ashley?
It'll need a public hearing, of course, and you'd have to complete the seeker before you have the public hearing.
Open the public hearing, right. So we don't have a resolution at this point prepared for a neg deck. So I would suggest that, does anybody have any other open items as far as seeker? I mean, I think we need to work on the tree plan, but I don't know that that rises to the level of not allowing us to do a neg deck.
The one thing would be the county
And the county sewer.
That would be something that
Okay.
would,
So board members, do you have any comments as far as seeker? Do you think that we can start to close this out? And consider issuing a negative declaration? Meaning they don't have to prepare an environmental impact statement because we don't think there's a significant adverse impact.
Yes, I think we're,
Okay.
note on this as well, this is the small, the short EAF form was used, I believe. So
Okay.
I know we just went through all those questions for the long form, but this is, the form itself is not as many
Right.
questions.
Pat, thoughts?
I agree with that.
You're good. Anthony?
I'm good.
Lisa?
I'm okay.
So let's do this. Let's work on just straightening up the Orange County Sewer District, making sure that isn't some limiting issue, because if we have to go to sewer now, or septic, which is what happened to one of our applicants, it became a big headache. So, because of wells and separation, I don't think that's gonna happen here, but we need to just get some kind of clarification.
In conversations I have had with Orange County Sewer District Number 1 relating to this, and they have noted, we can give you a technical approval. We can even potentially give you a permit. You may not be able to build if there's no capacity. I mean, that's where they have left this comment to me. I can tell you that. I can call Bill Sherry again tomorrow and confirm that. Because it's really, you're on a list, and when you go in, if there's capacity, there is, and if you go in and there's no capacity, there's not. So
Yeah.
technically what happens is he just can't get a building permit until there's capacity, is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think it's, from my perspective, it's specifically with regard to the Moodna Creek aspect, portion of it. It's not the entire Orange County Sewer District.
But are we
It's
within
the-
MUDA? We're not.
Well, I didn't think you were. That's why I don't know why we're getting this comment.
That's why we're trying to get clarification from
Right.
county planning.
So that's why I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Gotcha.
So, but I think we need to, maybe ask, look, is this site in the Moodna? And if not, does that mean they can get sewer?
Right.
Yeah,
So that we can just,
It's definitely not in the MUDA. My understanding is that the town board allocates sewer capacity for the MUDA districts.
well, and so the issue is, it's overcapacity.
Okay.
The initial letter it was from Orange County DPW, I believe, and they had said it was no application, this board can't approve anything without resolving first the capacity or issue, so.
Right, so they
that's
don't want
where-
us, right, they don't even want us approving subdivisions.
Without showing that it's gonna somehow do an offset or.
Right,
I can 100% confirm this is not within the
Yeah.
MUDA basin.
I suspect that's the case, so I think we're gonna resolve that. So,
Reach out to it was specifically, I think, Orange County DPW, it was Orange County Planning Department who I spoke to, and they are aware of it, but the initial letter came from Orange County DPW. I mean, if you think you could get a quicker response, by all means, reach out to the county and get clarification, but we do need something from them.
I would imagine, actually, I would have gotten that comment from Bill Sherry, knowing that that's the situation, and I would never have gotten even a technical approval at this point, right? I mean, that just kind of makes
But the
common
other
sense.
application, though, I believe, didn't they get technical?
they did.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, only on the driveway.
Lakeview?
Oh,
The county, since it's in the Moodna, the Moodna approved the technical aspect, but that was before the letter came from
From the
DPW.
county.
Right.
Okay, so,
And I'm
because
at-
there's another player here, so it's the Moodna Creek Watershed Basin.
Moodna
Basin, right.
Right. And so they may have said, it's okay, and then the county was saying, no, it's not, because you're over capacity.
Right.
Right.
So, again, it's just something that we have to touch upon and address, especially since it's a county comment. So I would make a motion that we have Ashley draft a negative declaration for our next meeting. And can we pass the negative declaration and then open the public hearing on the same evening?
but that's, I'm hoping that we'd have an answer from the county on that.
Right.
Before then, because there's notice requirements with the public hearing, that we might not have an answer from the county before they would have to do that notice requirement, so.
So let's say that we'll tentatively, you can start to draft the neg deck regardless, and that we can tentatively schedule a public hearing subject to getting notice from Orange County Sewer District that you are not within the Moodna Creek Basin, or you're not affected by being located within that boundary.
Or clarification from Orange County Planning Department.
Or
Or clarification from Orange County
Or the
Pl-
county DPW, because there's all three
Right.
players here. It was,
Well, we got to use the words correctly. It's Department of Environmental Facilities. That's OCDEF, not DPW. Well,
that's
they
who
are
would
part of-
approve that's who gives the Orange County Sewer District 1 the approvals itself, but I don't know that we've received anything about these capacity issues from them directly. I think it would be really resolving the issue. I was told someone from the county's attorney's office would be in touch, so it would be from the county,
Yeah.
county.
As long
county
as there's
general.
someone
Yeah.
with authority that confirms that you are not within the Muna Creek
You're not,
basin.
well, it would be that you're not
Subject
subject to
to.
that.
Subject to that
comment doesn't
limitation.
apply, that there's nothing, that needs to be done, that this board can issue an approval without having to resolve the capacity issue or
Okay,
whatever's, that's noted in this binding comment.
okay.
Because that's something, again, that this board would have to, you'd have to have a basis for overruling it if you were going to, act contrary to that. So I think we need to know what they mean in particular before.
Okay. So have a public hearing, but conditioned upon that determination.
I mean, I guess it
With,
would
with
be
enough
that you're.
time for noticing a public hearing.
Yeah, I don't know that, I don't know that it needs to be that specific, where you could set the public hearing with the understanding that you'd have to complete seeker before it, and if you don't have this decision.
Determination, we
so
can't complete seeker.
That's fine by me.
We'll keep the applicant, apprised, and if they don't get the notices out because we don't have an answer in time, then they don't do the notices, and the public hearing just won't happen, so if that's how you want to do it,
Yeah, I
hopefully
think
we get it
because,
in the next, what is it, 10 days, I think?
I don't want to,
Do it on the regular meeting, not the workshop, public hearings.
well, that would give us a little extra time if we did it at the
So
regular.
he would have to have his mailings out by September 10th.
Oh, we'll definitely have an answer.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
I can.
publication, I can squeak it till the 13th, 14th, because the meeting would be the 21st.
Okay. So then, I'm going to amend my motion that we tentatively schedule so that, number one, we have Ashley draft a negative declaration for our review to be ready for, what's the date? For the meeting, our regular planning board meeting of September 21st.
Are you doing the neg deck on the workshop?
No, I think we could do it on the same evening.
Okay.
And so it's one time they have to come out. And that we are tentatively scheduling a public hearing, subject to receiving,
Sorry to throw a monkey in the wrench in here, but your workshop meeting's the 9th. So
Okay.
that would be 10, the next day would be the 10th that they would have to get the mailings out. I don't know if that leaves them enough time if you want to hold off the public hearing aspect.
We're talking about the 20,
No, but we're doing the
21st.
public hearing the 21st.
Understood, but if you did the neg deck on the 9th and then held the public hearing on the 21st, that's an option too.
yeah, I'm actually, rather than them coming out two
Yeah,
times,
okay,
yeah, I'd like to
sure.
do the
Sorry to-
neg deck and then open the public hearing.
that works for us.
And
Or I guess, though, they wouldn't need to be,
here for the neg deck?
because that would maybe be easier without having to get until this tentative and all that. You could set the public hearing. If you're able to do the neg deck on the 9th, then you set the public hearing that night. If you're not able to do the neg deck because of the county, then
Okay,
It doesn't go through,
you convinced me.
only because it's a big
All right, so we're
expense for the
going to,
mailing.
so can we schedule the public hearing on the 9th? Is that enough time?
That's what I'm saying, is enough time.
Noreen shaking her head.
What's today's date? Today's the 17th?
What's the notice time required between,
I have an idea. Can I just phrase the motion for you?
thank you.
So a motion to have the planning board attorney draft a negative declaration for the September 21st meeting, and to schedule the public hearing on this application for the September 21st meeting, provided the planning board receives sufficient confirmation from Orange County regarding the binding comment number 1 on the Orange County Planning Department General Municipal Law report, that it's able to go.
So we would have the public hearing and the neg
Subject
deck
to-
the same evening?
Yes.
Okay. That's where I thought we were heading.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the 21st. I think that makes, for me,
Okay.
the most sense, yeah.
I will make that motion that Ashley so articulately expressed.
I will second that motion.
Noreen?
Sure, I'm just confused. That was Jeff who seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Pat Shea,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
and Lisa McQuaid.
Aye.
All
you.
right, so 21st.
Thank you. Sean, can I get a copy of the comments too? Can you get those for me, just so I can walk around?
Yes.
I'll scan them and send them to you too, all right?
Before we finish up, gentlemen, if I can just circle back to trees for a minute.
Sure.
Which I think is kind of one of the more important and interesting aspects of this project. Thinking back from when we did the site visit and getting a much better understanding, not just of the property and what the issues with the trees were, some of the stuff that Ward brought forward to us, but it really helped me understand the fact that not all scenic road is created equal. And in looking at the surrounding properties, that's what I'd encourage you to key off of in where you're looking to replant. I mean, I really do like the idea of the reuse of the stone wall, and you know, if you can work in as many trees as possible reasonably to create some visual and noise buffer from what is a very busy road. You know, I understand what you were talking about that day, Paul, about people want to have a yard too. So it's got to be a balance of those things. And I think that the homes in that area more or less achieve that. So I'd like to see something that I think was kind of in keeping with that part of the neighborhood. You know, understanding that the next project we're going to be looking at, which is also on Harriman Heights Road, is a very different scenic road from a mile, you know, down the hill.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree with that statement.
Thank
It's a
you.
much different portion of Harriman Heights Road, which is quite frankly much more scenic, yes.
Yeah, I think that from my perspective, I think that again, we don't want to just see clear cut to the houses. Some vegetation should be in there. I also think, to your point, some buffering between the, I guess that's the, I'm trying to think of where my north is. It would be the northerly property boundary, I think, that's over toward Route 17M, right? Yes. So, you know, that property, those properties over there, ultimately, some of them are commercial, so I think giving them a little bit of buffer would be good. As far as the rear yard, I'm less concerned about the rear yard. To the extent that the trees are, you know, because again, you say people do want to use their backyards. You know, people use their front yards a little less than they use their backyards, I think, in general. And given the traffic and other things going on, I think your use of your rear yard is particularly important. But again, you know, it's still a scenic road. We do want to have some nice visuals. I think, especially the stone wall, I think it'd be great to reconstruct that in some form.
Yep. I would just make one note. I'm not going to necessarily speak for Paul, but I would say that it's not his goal to clear cut this property. The property, I just want to make a note, is very narrow. We are following the bulk zoning regulations that are allotted for this particular zone. It's a function of the narrowness of the lots that's really forcing us to cut as many trees as we are. It's no developer's goal, I don't believe, to clear cut simply because it's expensive. You cut more trees, you spend more money. You have less attractive lots, at least that's my opinion. So, I mean, we are kind of constrained a little bit in terms of why we're clearing so many trees, simply because they're not very large lots.
Plus you're grading and
And
From-
yes, we have a tremendous grade change between the road and the actual property where we're looking to place the house, which the board has witnessed during its site visit. So all these factors is why you see this happening. Otherwise, I could guarantee you that there would be a lot less trees coming down on this property.
I think it's difficult to do it in the front just because of the grade changes.
Sure.
But I don't know that that's the case across most of the site, all the site. So, you know, again, I think there's a balancing.
No problem, no, agreed. We'll do the best we can to present a plan that's better than what we've shown now.
Thank you. Board members?
Just, unfortunately, I wasn't at that last meeting. Did this require a waiver for the scenic use?
Not at this point, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is Planningn Sisters. And so this is obviously new before the planning board. So I think, Mike, it would be useful to describe kind of the process that's occurred to date, some of which is outside of our board.
Yep.
And then Ashley can supplement our understanding of the particular law and what our role is right now, as opposed to later down the road, when I believe we have to review the site plan itself. And also, Ashley can touch upon our seeker obligation. All right, so why don't you start, Mike?
I'll start with a basic, like, chronological order here. So I think it was back in beginning of January 2021, we had submitted a petition to the town board for this proposed project. The town board had made some comments to us. We addressed those comments, went back to a subsequent meeting with the town board. At that point, the town board had suggested to get input from Ms. Franson and start the process a little bit with the planning board in that fashion. So since that time, we've been going back and forth and kind of, crafting this master development plan, which is more along the lines of a good master development plan, but more in line of a concept plan for the town board review. The town board felt predominantly satisfied with what we have here. A few months ago, we were still working with Bonnie as it related to some of the comments on the northern site in terms of its layout. The town board in that time period felt that it was probably a better idea to have this project reviewed by the planning board at this point and actually defer to the planning board as the lead agency. So that's where we kind of are at this point. So in reviewing the project as it stands, I'll give you a basic overview of what you're looking at. The portion of the site to the bottom of the screen is essentially the southern side. And so the southern side of the site, we're looking at a senior housing complex with approximately 88 one-bedroom and I think about 12 two-bedroom units. This site, from what I recall, at one point was a military academy that was somehow connected with the Sisters of the Catholic Apostolic.
Two brothers that walked that parade field many times for punishment.
So. So interestingly enough, because of what the former use of the site was, there's a wastewater treatment plant, okay, to the east side of your screen. If you can see there in dark lettering, it says wastewater treatment facility. That treatment plant right there consists of secondary and tertiary treatment, and it discharges to the New York State DEC wetland that's further to the east on the screen. And it did serve a significant, I want to say there might have been approximately about 100 units or so also in that military academy. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was about that. Because this thing is designed for about 20,000 gallons per day. And so what it's only seeing right now is somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 gallons per day on average. So it's significantly underutilized because of the removal of the military academy.
Just to be clear, where is the current flow coming from?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's coming from the current convent that was constructed in the early 2000s. So we have a wastewater treatment facility, which is an interesting feature for us on this site that's very, very underutilized, right? And so the wastewater flow from this project would ultimately go to that wastewater treatment facility since it has adequate capacity. We've had very limited discussions with the DEC on this because we haven't even circulated for lead agency yet, but I've tried to at least have discussions with them. So I've kind of got my ducks in a line a little bit with them and ready to go when that time comes. There is also an existing well located just in front of the central turnaround, right in front of the proposed building, that was also utilized for water supply for that military academy back in the day. We anticipate reutilizing that well. We may also need to, under today's regulations, find a second well for backup, since this will be a public water supply system.
Where's the well again, Mike?
If you scroll down the screen a little bit And then just to the left, so scroll now to your left towards Harriman Heights Road. You see it says existing
well
well
pit?
and pit right there? Yeah. So that's where the location of that well is right now. And I've got a 200-foot radius shown, which is separated from the wastewater treatment plant. And so we're gonna look to see if we can reutilize that. If not, we will look at drilling 2 new wells for this particular project. So what you see here, I mean, that's kind of like a little bit of a history of the property, which therefore segues into what you see here, again, which is an 88-unit single bedroom and a 12-unit 2-bedroom senior housing complex. There are 2 access points off of Harriman Heights Road. We have already had preliminary discussions with Orange County DPW. We are actually preparing some other plans for them to take a look at and approve where these entrances are for this particular site. There's multiple existing entrances along Harriman Heights Road on this side, actually on both sides of the property. We would be eliminating the additional ones that are currently used to access this portion of the site. The site, to the greatest extent possible, has tried to reutilize the existing impervious surfaces that were there before. So it falls somewhat under the category of a redevelopment project. We are placing a lot of the pavement for the entrances in the same location as existing driveways that are there now. The building itself is approximately in the same location as where the military academy was. So it's an interesting project in the sense that there has been already something there carved out before us that made sense, and it makes sense to try to probably look at reutilizing those areas again. So that's kind of a general summary of what's going on the southern side of the site. On the northern side of the site, oh, and by the way, there'll be 2 phases, okay? So the southern side would be our phase 1, which would be constructed first. Upon completion of that construction, the applicant will look at consider phase 2, which would be the northern side of Harriman Heights Road at that point. But we're master planning, so we're here for an approval on the entire project with phasing to be considered. So again, on the northern side of the site, in the back over there was roughly, that you can see if you walk the site, and I encourage the planning board to take a site visit. Quite frankly, the site's, it's beautiful. There's a tremendous amount of beautiful mature trees there, and we're doing everything we can to actually protect the majority of those. Again, since those original developed sites were already carved out for us, it makes it easier for us to do that. So there were some building pads, or at least a building pad shown roughly in the location where we've got these 2 multifamily buildings right now where Bonnie's kind of hovering her mouse over. We would have one entrance come in off the center portion of Residence Road there, which would circulate to the left and right, loop around the actual buildings themselves. And if you come down into the western side of the site over here, you'll see we also have some townhouses proposed. They would have, these buildings would face each other. They'd have common parking in the middle. And they would actually be located in a really nice portion of the site. And the other feature that you'll see here in the bottom left-hand corner is a proposed town soccer field. This was something in discussion with the town board and the supervisor that they were greatly desiring. It appears that we have not an adequate amount of soccer fields within the town of Monroe. We have lots of baseball fields, lots of football fields. We only have actually one soccer field, which is Monbasha, which I know, which is actually right behind my house. So, so that's something that this particular applicant and developer are willing to undertake in terms of contribution to the town for recreation facilities as a part of the project. So again, on the northern site, I think we have at least 3 existing public water supply wells that were there previously. Now, on this side, I believe there was a convent at one time, or something for either priests and or nuns on the northern side, as I understand it. Again, the building pad for that is roughly shown where these multifamily dwellings are located. There's a public water supply well just to the right of the entrance, what is now known as Residence Road. and there's one or two more down in the vicinity of the soccer field. There's one actually within the proposed soccer field area, and there's one, I think, just to the north of that also. So we're going to investigate those, see what yields they provide, and if they're adequate for this particular project, then they'll be reutilized. If not, then we'll look at considering new locations for new wells to be drilled. So the northern site, so we'll have a total of 78 units available to us for the northern site. So there's about 100 on the southern site. There's 78 on the northern site. That number comes from a calculation, which is in the CCR code. Essentially, it's 89 acres. I can multiply that by 2, or roughly is what it comes down to. So there's your 178 total units that are permitted, 100 on the south side, a total of 78 on the north side. We've been fleshing out the north side a little bit, so I don't have 100% like allocation for exactly how many of those are townhouse units, how many of those are, you follow what I'm saying, multifamily units. I think on the right-hand side of the page, I do have a table there that actually shows what the allocation for each particular use would be. But it's subject to some revision because this looks nice on a plan, but once we agree on the layout and the concept of it, I've got to go back to the architect, right? And then he's got to relay this out to make sure that we can get those units in. So it'll be close to what you see, but it could change slightly, okay? Pretty neat here, open space area. We're keeping about 82% of the site open space, which is pretty phenomenal. And our FAR calculation right now falls at about a .067. I think .07 is the maximum we're allowed. I mean, that's what you have before you. Oh, and by the way, the northern side also has a wastewater treatment plant, which is located in the northeastern portion of the site, just behind the Little Pals preschool. You can see it right there at the top of the screen center. That has about 25,000 gallons per day. I think it's receiving about 4,000. So we have tremendous existing, I mean, I'll go so far as to say this, like this is the poster child for the CCR zone. I'm not even exaggerating. So it's got all the facilities we need. We're located within a certain prescribed distance to villages. I mean, we check everything off that's really a part of what the intent of the CCR floating zone is to be.
What aspects of what exists there now are being retained? And who is the planned owner? Is it going to continue to be owned by the Palatine sisters? Is it going to be leased? Just for the benefit of people who are watching?
My understanding is that the property will be sold and conveyed to the applicant upon approval from the planning board for the actual site plan. The applicant's not here with me tonight. The O'Connors had a death in the family, so they weren't able to make it, unfortunately. We have had that discussion. I would rather defer that question to them just because I don't want to make a mistake in anything I state. I'm more the engineer, not as involved in the business aspect of it. I do believe, though, that they intend to retain the multifamilies, and I do believe, I think we had discussions, Bonnie, if I'm not mistaken, about how the townhouse portion of this would potentially be handled, whether it would be fee simple or if it would be, again, some kind of rental, or if it's some
Condo.
Condo, yes, whatever it is.
I don't know that they've landed anywhere yet.
I don't think so.
recall.
I also will say this, not that they're not, the focus right now is on the southern site, simply also because it's phase 1. But we do need to hammer out these issues as it relates to phase 2 and ownership, I agree.
Yeah, just because we have the cemetery still there, we have buildings still
Correct.
there,
Yeah.
so, how that all works.
And we may need to put in a subdivision line, so a portion of this may need to remain with the sisters, and some of this will then therefore also remain with the applicant. So it's a little, as a matter of fact, I would note, we intend to do the same thing on the southern site. The CCR code states that the subdivision portion of this is the actual last thing that you do. It didn't even, as far as I understood it, intend to have a subdivision line shown right now. Because I think you need to look at the project from a contiguous area standpoint, and that may be the reasoning for it, but there will be a subdivision line between the senior housing complex and the convent, and there will be a subdivision line between the Little Palace Preschool, the cemetery, and the Pilates Center. They're in discussions. That could end up being under ownership by the applicant as like a community recreation center that's connected to the
Like
project.
a homeowner's,
Or it might end up, the sisters may want to retain it. So it'll
Okay.
be one or the other. We're not there yet with that.
and the convent's right here?
Correct. Yep. Yes. They have their own public water supply wells located just in the front of the entrance. So I mean, that's a general summary. Hope everybody was able to understand what I was talking about, but it's a lot to digest in.
Yeah. Why don't we, actually, let's see if the board members have questions first before we get into the consultant reviews. Is there anything that the board members want to raise and ask Mike at this time?
I have a couple of. In taking a look at the submissions that we've received so far, it looks like there's 3 different versions of how the townhouses might be. One where there were 3 townhouses, one where there were then 3 townhouses and one across the road in the area that was a little more like where there's a hill.
Yeah.
And then the one that we're looking at now, where it's kind of 4.
So we had presented, and I don't know what's been given to the planning board, but when we did start the process with the town board, there were 2 options. You might have both options, for all I know, that are sitting in front of you, which may be creating some confusion. So we ended up kind of selecting one of the options, started the review process then at that point with Bonnie, and things have changed. So I would only look at those renderings and elevation views from a stylistic standpoint. I would not look at them in terms of how they match up with what's shown on the site plan right now, because the site plan and those renderings and elevations don't 100% match because of the comments we received from Bonnie. So once we kind of finalize a conceptual layout, then I want to go back to the architect, modify all that, resubmit so that we're consistent in what we're looking at. I would say the senior housing complex really hasn't changed much from day one. That's been pretty much the same. So those renderings and elevations and floor plans are fine to look at. The multifamily buildings, from a general perspective, look at them. Like, do you like the colors? Do you like the general architectural look? That's fine. Don't look at them if they match up even with the footprints that we currently have, because they probably don't. Same thing with the townhouses. I mean, just look at them from like a, does it look nice perspective? Would you rather see a different architectural style or something like that?
Do you expect, based on what you've worked on, that you'll be more likely to have 3 townhouse buildings or 4 townhouse buildings?
4.
Yeah, I think we have
The 4 that we're looking at.
4, yeah,
Right,
4.
even though it's not solidified.
Yes, yeah, I think there's a need for this type of housing in Monroe. So and in talking with and Bonnie in the past, I think we had 3 shown there before. At one point, I think
we wanted another one.
we wanted another one, so I
Yeah.
actually added one more. Now I've got to make the 78 units work somehow, because we actually have one more townhouse unit building shown now than we did before. So that again changes the allocation of how the units are distributed.
My other question goes back to what you were saying early on in relation to the process for the CCR floating zone. So my understanding, the way that works is really the town board takes the lead on all of that, and the planning board is really handled almost like on a consulting basis, where once they've kind of come to somewhat of a solidified plan, it comes to us. We have I forget if we landed on a 60 or a 90-day period for us to be able to provide input, and then it kind of winds up with them. But from what you were saying, I'm gathering this might work differently than that?
It seems to be that way.
Okay.
I think the town board was looking for, I mean, it's, site plans are not what the town board does. So the planning board does do that. So I think the town board's actually really looking for input right now the town board likes the project, is endorsing the project, but they're want to rely on the planning board's experience from a concept layout standpoint, from a density standpoint, from what works best on the site standpoint. So I think they've kind of punted it to you guys in that sense for.
I think that's great. I'm happy to be involved on a larger level, and especially in this project, but
Yeah,
I was a little unclear about that because I was almost wondering why it was coming to us at this point.
Yes.
For that reason, because.
It's the seeker part of it and that's why I said Ashley could get into this, because I was a little confused, not confused, but when the original CCR was adopted, they did like a generic environmental impact statement. So the other project has been reviewed, I think seeker's completed on it. And I don't know to what extent we do seeker once a site plan application is actually received by us. But here, I don't know if the CCR contemplated this particular project or not. And that's where we might have to do more of the seeker. And so I think the town board would prefer that the board be lead agency, and by virtue of having to do that, we're actually doing it on the actions we would take, which would be the site plan, and they won't make a decision on this until we've completed seeker, and that
Correct.
definitely can't be done I don't think it can be done in 60 to 90 days. That's the issue.
And we would work with the planning board to
Yeah.
waive that time period. I'm not worried about that. I mean, what
Yeah.
I'm worried about tonight is actually getting a concept layout that we can finalize with the planning board
Right.
and come back with something that the planning board can look at next month that with architecturals and everything else that we can connect, and we can start moving the project forward in that sense.
So I would only say, just so you know, the board members know, so I have been involved. I was asked to participate in looking at the design. And for the most part, as Mike is expressing, we talked about the senior on the south side, and it had more to do with breaking up the massing. It's a big building, making sure that it is broken up in some way. The northern side, we've discussed things like encroaching into the wetland buffer. I think the big back and forth has been the way that the townhouses are laid out. And Jeff, I think you were part of these discussions a little bit too.
I
That's
attended
right, yeah,
one
you were on one
meeting
of the Zoom meetings,
in
yeah.
relation to that,
Yeah.
and actually, as I remember, Bonnie, you and I were in favor of a 4 townhouse solution rather than the 3 that were being proposed at that point. And I have to say, the layout that we're looking at now, I actually like quite a bit.
Thank you.
So for those of you who have the renderings, if you look at the last page here, it had, the big change was originally it had a road going out to Harriman Heights Road. And the issue was that the townhouses were fronting on that access drive, and the way it was shown is people would have to be reversing out onto the driveway, and you would have all the traffic coming from the multifamily, and we didn't really want that to happen. We wanted this to be a smaller, nicer, quieter enclave. So because of the fact you have multiple access points in the northern side, the desire was to create this little, cul-de-sac at the end, so that it would be quieter for those townhouse residents. They're right there next to the ball field, so that's like perfect for families. And if anything, honestly, that was pretty easy to come to. What we were going back and forth on, and Sean knows this because Sean was part of this too, we're like, how many feet should it be from the ball field? How many feet should it be from the parking area? How many feet should it be from the multifamily development, so that there would be enough of a screening and buffering of the townhouses from parking lots and other activities? So that's where we were especially going back and forth and maneuvering the buildings, and ultimately, we all collectively decided, look, the planning board has to weigh in on all of this, the full planning board, and we have to start the process. So that's why there's room to comment on this as a full planning board and the layout and discuss to what extent it can be shifted here or there or changed. But also, as Mike has said, the town board is in favor of this application. So I think for us, it's making sure it's the best design, for the units that are proposed.
So to that note, I did tinker with this quite a bit. I went back and forth, I think, maybe 2 or 3 revisions. And it's a little tough because if you can you go back into that portion actually, Bonnie? Zoom in where the townhouses are, the 4 townhouses. Yep, a little bit more. So as you can see, there's a pretty steep slope. You follow what I'm saying right there. So that limits me in how much I can move the buildings, to the west there. So it was really, I think, this is pretty close to what we were talking about. We're definitely at least 150, 160 feet away from the soccer field. Now, I don't have a landscaping plan prepared yet necessarily either, so there could be lots of screening along that ridge line if we wanted to. That would help out.
Honey, could you point out the soccer field while he's talking?
Actually, because I
Sorry to
zoomed in so
interrupt you.
much, you can't see it, but here's the corner right here. So this is the soccer field.
And
This
it-
is the parking for the soccer field.
Right.
There would be stairs or some connection down to this area.
Those are existing, but we can make them proposed, yeah.
Well, and so these are all the considerations. So if these remain, all the people who are coming from the multifamily are going to be coming through this driveway. And, the people here may not want that. They may want something that's a little,
We can have paths and
Right,
whatnot
a
showing
different-
from there.
exactly.
Those are like the finer details of things that
Right.
we'll add to the site plan. But
right.
right now, it was just to make sure that we think that the location of the townhouses is appropriate as it relates to as much of a separation distance from the multifamilies as possible and from the soccer field as possible. And I've kind of met them right in the middle. I explained to you why I can't move these buildings to the west anymore, and I think, quite frankly, we don't want to, because on the weekends, those ball fields will be used the most. And so I would say that if we can keep a little bit more of a buffer to the soccer field as opposed to the multifamilies, it probably makes a little more sense. And quite frankly, I can't move those buildings further to the west much more anyways, at least certainly not buildings 4 and 5.
The only other thing that we were playing around with is how far back should it be off of Harriman Heights?
Right, and I have
Because
it
you
100
could-
feet right now.
Yeah, so that's where we were like 75, 85, 100, because that's where you could get some separation between the multifamily, but then you're putting them closer to the road.
Yeah, and I
So
have
what's reasonable?
a 50-foot separation between the cluster of buildings 6 and 7 and 4 and 5. So we can make up any distances you want using that 50 feet also, if we feel that, I'm not sure that we need 50 feet between those two building clusters, but that could be another option for us to gain distances back somewhere. And again, we can also put plenty of screening off of Harriman Heights Road to protect buildings 6 and 7 from visual impact to the road and noise impact from the road on those particular townhouses.
One of the things you mentioned was anticipating leaving 82% left as open space. How much of that would either be under restrictive covenant or conservation easement?
It could be all of it if the board would want. Well, I have to, by default, my FAR is kind of forcing my hand here on what the maximum development is
Right.
and the unit yield. So I can't get any more. I couldn't get any more development on this unless the town itself wanted to change the code or allow more development for whatever reason. So we could certainly work with the town when we get to that point, whether it's completely,
Yeah, that's a great comment, because many of the subdivisions in Monroe have somehow cobbled together open space that's contiguous, especially like out by the Mombasha Park. There's the trail there, you have the wetlands, the area where the mines used to be, also it's nice how it's contiguous, and there's trails, so it's the same concept here. It'd be nice to be adding to our open space in a way that it could be used if it's possible.
I would note that a good portion of the open space on the southern side is that DEC wetland and its 100-foot buffer. And we do have a smaller Army Corps wetland on the northern site, up to the north of, I think it's behind the multifamilies. But yeah, we can certainly, as we're, again, I'm here for a concept plan approval tonight of some sort, or at least input. And then we will definitely be glad to work with the board on those other items as we kind of hammer out the finer details of the concept layout.
If you have more comments?
The northern site, it's worth noting also, definitely has a lot of rock outcroppings to it, which also preclude development, and they're useful for some recreation, but, you know, I think it's somewhat limited.
I mean, the last comment that I have, at least at this point, is I'm not so adverse to the multifamily buildings and the townhouses being closer together. I don't think we need a lot of separation there. I think that there's going to be some intermix between the residents there, and frankly, I would hope that there would be, that you'd get that level of community. I think we're going to be looking at, you know, either younger, you know, singles in some cases, young couples, young families. You know, I'm hoping that's who gravitates to the project, and, you know, that kids will go back and forth between the buildings and play with each other, you know, get outside a little bit. You're right, it's a beautiful piece of property.
I
So
agree.
I hope they get out, you know, and run around together.
Yeah, I think the 100 feet, I think I have roughly about 100 or 113 feet between the multi-families right now and buildings 4 and 5, which I think is more than adequate. And again, there could also be some screening placed between them if required, so.
I think from my perspective, if, you know, when we recommend the concept, I would just, you know, leave it open to further working on and refining it as a site plan.
That'll go through, that's natural as part of any process, yeah, sure.
Yeah, my reaction is always, I always think of a parking space, and a parking stall is typically 20 feet. You know, now 18, but 20 feet. And so when I look at the 50 feet between the two buildings, I envision, okay, that's 2.5 parking stall length space. And I try to envision, well, what would a townhouse and another townhouse next to it with 50 feet, is that sufficient room between the two of them? So that's why I think that's, from me, where I'd like to really understand that area and if that's sufficient, because then I think maybe you do want to say, okay, let's do 85 to Harriman Heights. You know, you can always put screening and buffering in. You can never get back that additional land area between the townhouses. So
I'm imagining.
that's why I say, I think so long as there's wiggle room.
The area is probably about the size of this room, roughly. And I mean, so that is a nice area between the two buildings. I do like it because as we continue to progress the plan, that could be like a common space, kind of like tables, walkways, things that, you know, gazebos, whatever we want to put in between there. I think it actually could be a very, very useful space.
Yeah, I'm trying to see, would you say the windows here are like 3 feet or 2.5 feet? See the windows behind us? Is that like a 3 foot?
Probably.
If you look at those? No, the width.
The width?
30 inches?
Yeah, close. Close enough, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm trying to equate what a parking spot, or like what 2.5 would be, how much space that would actually be. But that's probably not the best.
About, those are 3, that's 36 feet, not including the separation for the walls between the windows and the end. So you may be looking at around 40 feet.
Between here to here?
I would say it's close.
Well, I think we can figure this out, we can measure it out, or we could look at it and see if that's adequate. It also, you know, do they have any sense of what the townhouse heights are gonna be? They're gonna be 2-story, right?
Correct, yes.
With a gable roof.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's an easy, if we want to make that 65 and reduce this frontage separation to Harriman Heights to 85, that's an easy change.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't even know, you know, that's a detail. I think that what's important is having the townhouses there, okay?
Yep.
You know, is having, you know, if we need a cul-de-sac or we need a T-turn at the end of that little area, you know, again, these are details we can work out, but it's more important, is that okay where those townhouses are proposed in general?
And just so you're aware, that little T turnaround at the end has been already designed for fire truck access. So a fire truck can get in and out of both of these sites pretty easily. I do like the way it's shown right now because I think it really gives the impression that it's not an area to park, it leaves more open space, it doesn't look like, as much like a residential subdivision with a cul-de-sac at the end of it. We originally had a cul-de-sac proposed, would be glad to put it back in there if that's what the board wants to see, but I actually do like this layout a little bit better.
Board members have additional comments?
I don't.
You don't? Lisa, Anthony?
What makes the southern part senior living? Is that because it's going to be controlled by a management company?
I'd have to defer to the applicant on that question. I do believe the applicant intends to own and operate everything that's on here. Whether or not they're going to have a management company come in and assist them with the operations of the senior facility, I don't 100% know that.
My understanding, restricted, if it's going to be something that's, restricted just to the senior, it would be
Correct.
filed with the county. So that would make it senior housing.
It could be a gated community. Is that what you had in mind as a gated community?
A gated senior housing community?
Yeah.
I don't think you're proposing gated, right?
No.
No.
Not at this time, no. It's never been discussed actually with the applicant.
Is it affordable? Is any of it tax credits or affordable? I forget.
I think a certain portion
Workforce?
is required. Yeah, by, I think, county planning regulations. So we'd have to look at whatever that is. I think it's actually laid out in our petition for the CCR overlay, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken.
Proposed in the certain percentages, multifamily
Yes,
portion.
that's correct.
For the southern portion, if I remember in the materials going over it, that's proposed to be 55 and above. So that's
Right.
where you get your senior housing. So if I remember correctly, what it stated was at least one of the residents had to be 55 and above, and you can't have anyone who's under 18. I think those are some of the general qualifications to be defined as senior housing. So cool, I'm almost senior.
You have
Hey, new home options, you know?
You have a chance to design your future, Jeff.
Lisa or Anthony, any other questions?
I have a few questions. Is the convent occupied right now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So then, are they just selling off unused property? Is the convent going to remain?
The convent's the purpose of this whole exercise is so the convent can remain. Yeah, this will generate revenue for the sisters, which will go towards the continued operation and maintenance of the convent.
Because the CCR is new to us, is it necessary, as opposed to having the conventional subdivision or cluster subdivision? Like, I don't know what the difference with the CCR is, because maybe I don't know what the zoning is right there. I just want to know if there's the benefit as far as the CCR as opposed to doing this as a subdivision.
So that's going to allow greater development on a smaller portion of the property, is what it comes down to. The benefit for the town, of course, is more open space, and hopefully more affordable housing, that kind of thing, greater housing options. So it's a different opportunity than what those other things would allow.
So I think the zoning right now is the 3-acre zone, right? Is it the 3-acre zoning, the base zoning?
This
That was our.
Is it R1 or R3? I thought a portion might be R3.
this is currently in the RR1.
RR1?
Yeah.
Different from just a traditional cluster subdivision, which first you would have the general subdivision, which would be 1-acre lots, but then the cluster, that would require 50% of the open space. This is 65% of open space is required, I believe, and it's more flexible. As Jeff said, you could build more on a smaller portion of the land, and also there's more flexibility because the town board will set the bulk requirements, all of them. So the cluster subdivision gives you the ability as the planning board to change certain requirements, but it's limited. You can only be some of them only 50%, that type of thing. So I think there's more flexibility here as far as what the code allows the town to do.
You have the open space with 80.
Yes.
Housing is, how many stories are they going to be? Like the one bedrooms, are they going to be all one level? Like, I would consider that like apartments.
I think we are 3 stories on that. You have the elevation views and the renderings in front of you, so we
Are they
might-
going to be, each unit going to be a single level? Or are they going to be, you walk in and you have to go up 2 flights of stairs to get from your main floor to your top?
Yeah, so we'll have a distinct first floor with whatever units are on it, second floor and a third floor, yes.
Now, would there be an elevator? I mean, the only thing I think of with senior housing is, getting from one level to the next. You might be 55 when you buy it, but
Sure.
you expect to age, and does that become a problem? Especially when you're within the unit, if there's stairs within the unit. But I was just curious
Sure.
how the levels work.
I mean, New York State, that's more of an architectural thing that you would deal with this from an architectural planning standpoint. So when we get through the actual planning board process and we're preparing architectural plans to submit to the building inspector for a building permit to actually start construction is when we would address those items. And there's New York State Building Code and all their requirements that we would need to abide by for that type of housing. So we would have to make sure that there's adequate facilities for accessing different floors, whether it be via elevator or whatever other method that people would get to the other floors.
So the base zoning, I think, is OSR 3, so it is 3 acre. So if you were to cluster and just do a cluster development, it would be fewer units. But the town passed the CCR, and certain properties are eligible, and this one is. And, I think it has to be up against the village. There's a certain size property, and we don't necessarily make the decision as far as, I guess, the units, or the town board ultimately approves the development plan, I think, for this project.
Development plan.
Right.
That master plan sets the density, the zoning, essentially land the
Right.
areas of the town that are eligible based on the size, the proximity to a village, that type of stuff. But it's up to the town board to actually land, and then the master development plan becomes the master plan for this area that then they come back for site plan approval and subdivision approval as well if there's subdivisions proposed.
Right. So I think I'm going to have Ashley maybe give us an overview of where we are, what we can do, because I'm hearing Mike say recommend the concept plan. But if we have to do seeker, I'm not sure if you could just elaborate on the steps and what we need to do.
So I think, and Mike could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's probably looking not so much for a formal, recommendation from this board, but just a consensus. Is there something glaringly wrong here that you have an issue with that you would want to resolve before kind of pushing this along? Where you are in the process. So the CCR law spells out that typically you'd get a referral from the town board after seeker's complete. But in this particular case, the town board's resolution of referral consented to you being the lead agency for the project. So that's why at this stage you don't yet have that determination. Either a neg deck or an EIS is required to make that referral to you. So you're not there yet in the process. The town board has asked you to be the lead agency for seeker because you are an involved agency based on your approval authority over the site plan. I think it might need wetlands permit, subdivision, those type of things. So
I think at the next meeting, we have to start thinking about what studies have been done, what studies need to be done, and ultimately do we need to do an EIS for this, or is this something that we can do like an expanded environmental assessment form, not to the extent of doing an environmental impact statement, but essentially having much of the studies that we need for this site, kind of comparable to how DG management is kind of chugging along. So I think we need to give that thought. I think, Mike, to the extent that there have been studies done, water, sewer, ecological, traffic, anything that's been done to date, either trip generation, whatever you have, send it along to us, because we then have to really start honing in on what we want the applicant to evaluate. You know, I think we're going to have to consider wetlands, especially being in the wetland buffer. You know, we'll have to look at habitat. As you said, there is a lot of reuse going on here, so we should really especially focus on areas that are not being reused. We'll want to get our Conservation Commission out there to give us some thoughts on trees, and, you know, if we do have the ability to tweak this 10 feet here, 5 feet here, you know, maybe there's something significant that they see, you know, in terms of trees or habitat, et cetera. We'll probably need to line up, so we're going to be doing well, so we're going to have to get our hydrogeologist involved. We should have Karen looking at the landscaping, sort of the usual consultants.
Dust off the water treatment plant effluent permits? You have a speedies permit for you?
Yes, we have copies of the speedies permits, which
Yeah, if you could send that to us.
we'd be glad to give
Yep.
to you guys.
Yeah, send everything to Noreen, and Noreen can circulate to us and to Sean and whomever.
But will there have to be a reevaluation of the sewer treatment plant? I mean, it has been running to capacity, so is there any improvements or updates that need to be required to put that back into service?
Yeah, like I said, these are severely underutilized. I don't think even with the proposed uses that are shown, they'll meet their full capacity. I mean, that is a DEC review issue. They do have speedies permits. I can't really engage with them until we at least
Start the seeker process?
we have at least circulated for lead agency.
Yeah, because we'll definitely need their input in terms of obsolescence.
And-
Is it adequate?
Yeah.
You know, what'll be the water quality
And
target?
my last conversation with them was, in an email, was, do you have secret lead agency circuit? I
Yeah.
said no. So they were like, well, when you get that,
Right.
contact us again.
So,
You're going to have an operator run those plants. I mean,
There already is. So Joe Klopshin right now is the person who manages both of those units. I don't know if that'll be the person moving forward, but yes, we will have to have somebody who is a licensed sewage treatment plant operator to maintain those plants.
when would we have information on how many townhouses, how many multifamily, what the bedroom count is?
If you guys tell me tonight you like this concept plan, I will give the architect his marching orders, and I can come back next meeting with revised elevation views, floor plans, and renderings.
Well, I'm thinking actually from a seeker perspective, oh wait, no, we are the lead agency, they already circulated.
No, you would have to declare
we-
your intent to be lead agency
Okay.
and circulate in order, that would be the first step. It would be typing the action as a type 1, because that's under the CCR law itself. It says all,
Okay, so the town board wants us to be lead agency,
Yes,
but
they've
because I didn't
consented-
recall getting a circulation from
no,
them.
they
Okay.
consented in their resolution. So they've already consented to you. So,
Okay.
But there's still other agencies that you have to
We have to do, okay.
circulate to.
So I think we need to do our lead agency circulation, which will trigger then reviews by other agencies. Do you think there's sufficient information, and that's where I was going with this, if this is the concept plan in general, can we start a circulation based on this information? The only information I really would like to know is specifics on total number of units, townhouse, multifamily, and bedrooms. I just feel like that's too, I think we should know that as we go to circulate. But other than that, I'm okay circulating with this concept, acknowledging that it's a concept and that it might be subject to refinement. Does anybody have any thoughts as far as whether we're okay to start circulation?
Yeah, I think we can.
You think we can? Pat, you think we can? Yes. Anthony?
Yes.
Okay.
Want to circulate, or did you want to wait or, upon submission of that information you asked? Or, and a couple of other things, on the EAF, there were some things that were blank. I could, speak with Mike about that. I could email him
Yeah.
some of the questions that were blank, and Sean had some comments as well on the EAF, just to get a revised EAF Part 1 submitted before circulation.
Yeah, so it's all, I think we need more definition to be able to finish the EAF.
So they, on not this master plan, but another master plan that was submitted, Mike had a breakdown of the number of bedroom units. I mean, I'm assuming you want to proceed with that one so far, and, it may be tweaked going forward, but maybe that's a good baseline to be able to circulate with, if Mike could
It would be
update that
close
chart.
enough to what we would probably revise our new floor plans to
Right.
It would be close enough, yeah.
Right, but if you could include that chart on this master plan to
Oh,
be
okay.
able to circulate with.
Yes, I can do that.
So the potential exists for us to request to be lead agency, but let's talk about, Ashley, the rest of the steps, and then I know you all have comments too.
Sure, so that would be if you wanted to classify it as a type 1 and circulate upon receipt of the EAF and the updated plan with the breakdown of units. So the next step in the referral, so it's not going as the process is specifically spelled out in the law, because again, you're going to be the ones doing seeker. So there's the 60-day time frame for you to give a report back to the town board on the master plan, and there's specific criteria in there in the code that you have to review and give your feedback on, whether it complies, whether you have specific recommendations to change certain things, whatever it may be. So that the applicant's already indicated he wouldn't be holding, or the applicant's consultant holding you to that 60-day time frame, and I think because you don't yet have the seeker complete, it's the referral perhaps wasn't, that 60-day time frame might not
Apply.
triggered. So I think obviously seekers are the biggest thing you got to start doing and reviewing. Then also once the plans are developed and seekers moving forward, the analysis of the criteria under the code through the different requirements and why they think they had meet those. So that's really the process, the beginning process. Once you do your your report and recommendations back to the town board, it's then in the town board's hand to take action on the master development plan. If they approve the master development plan, they either approve it with modifications, or deny. If they approve it in some respect, then they will come back to you for site plan approval and any subdivision approval. I think the petition indicated there would be 4 lots where certain things would be subdivided off. That was the plan initially, but everything has to be combined into one parcel in order, I believe, prior to site plan approval.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll have to be combined. And just a quick note on that, I think there's 2 parcels involved, but only one is identified on the
There's actually 3 parcels involved.
Okay, so if you could just make sure the application identifies, and we have the specific SBLs and how much acres of each of them are, and if they're all owned by the Palatine sisters, make sure that their owner's endorsement covers all 3.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll definitely need, in any lead agency notice to specify the specific parcel numbers that are involved. But as far as process goes, it starts with the town board, then bounces to you, and then bounces back to the town board, and then back to you ultimately.
So, one question, do we need any formal waiver of the time frame for the referral? And do you feel that that's necessary? And who, if anyone, would give us a waiver? Is it the applicant or the town board? And I don't know if we need one or not, it's just a question whether that would be beneficial for the process.
I think it certainly wouldn't hurt, and you could definitely request it from the applicant, and also, I'm just trying to pull up that specific provision, from the town board as well, and they're the ones that asked you to do the seeker process, so I think that would make sense. Oh, thanks, Sean. Receive it within or report back within 60 days of receipt of a referred petition, and then elsewhere it says the referral shall include either a negative declaration or a,
Okay.
yeah, it includes the master development plan, a negative declaration of significance, or an environmental impact statement. The planning board then reviews the petition, the development plan against those criteria, and then reports back. So it does contemplate that you have that seeker completed before you make your report and recommendation.
So, right, if there's no
I don't-
seeker,
yeah.
then the referral actually, on the one hand, we have a referral, but it's not really a referral because it can't happen until
I guess
seeker's
it's not a
complete.
complete referral.
Yeah, so maybe we don't have to worry about, we should just let the record reflect that because the town board has consented us to be lead agency, but we have to become lead agency due seeker, the referral timeframe hasn't started.
And, 60 days would start, I believe, upon either issuance of a neg deck or
EIS.
the EIS.
Okay,
But as you review it before then, you might, it might be hand in hand as far as your recommendations.
okay,
That makes sense.
yes. On?
Yeah, I didn't really have much to add. As Ashley noted, there's a couple, items in the EAF that have to be updated.
Sure.
And a couple other things in order for the master development plan to be complete, including the areas with the conservation value to be preserved, and all the utilities be shown. But, I understand you're in the concept phase, and you're not going to get to the utilities yet. So.
Right.
Other than that, nothing further at this time.
Okay, thank you. So I would then recommend that we declare our intent to be lead agency for the CCR overlay for Pilati.
It's Pilati Village, yeah. That'll be the
Pilati
title, yeah,
Village.
correct.
I'm not sure if it's Palatine or Pilati Village. Subject to our consultants reviewing the EAF, and amending the EAF as necessary. Planning board, any comments that you may have, get them to Ashley or Sean if you see if there's any changes that need to be made. And also subject to the applicant providing detailed information on the bedroom mix and the total number of units. Because we have to circulate the concept plan, project location map with the EAF and the notice. Anything else?
And to classify the action as a
As a
type
type, and we classify the action as a type 1 action due to, is the number of units?
1. Is in the
It requires
our
it
regs
be,
itself.
Oh, it says it's type 1 action?
right.
Oh, interesting, okay. So CCRs are type 1 actions and therefore require coordinated review. So with that, I make the motion, may I have a second?
I'll second that.
Noreen?
Ed Shea,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Aye.
Caro,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid.
Aye.
Thank you.
Right, with that, the motion passes, so we will start the seeker process, but again, be aware the EAF isn't going out tomorrow. We have to just make sure everything's up to date. And I think that's what we can address at the moment.
Does that motion give approval for conceptual approval? Or?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just to start the seeker process. That's it.
I think what I got tonight is we like the plan, but it's subject to modifications as we move along. But we like the plan, and that's what I was looking for tonight.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
You granted site plan approval tonight for this.
Sean, can I get a copy of the comments for this also?
You have an extra one, Sean? Because I have extras up here. Okay.
All right, before you both head out, I just want to give an opportunity. Ward, is there anything to report from Conservation Commission? I know we had to coordinate with you on a number of items. Thank you. Yes, I think we just got that recently, right? Meadow Hill. Speak into the mic, Ward. We're getting a, George.
Mike turned it off.
Slide it towards you.
There you go, okay. On the report on the trees, the last paragraph was a oversight. We recommended one type of tree. It was two common names, but some people got confused. It was a black gum or tupelo tree as a replacement when you get to that report.
Okay.
And other than that, we still need to do this one new school, proposed school. We had to, I don't know.
Oh, Allison Drive,
Yeah.
yes.
Joe
I
reached
think,
out to me today.
who did?
Joe, who's, I guess he's your chairman,
Yes,
Okay,
he said to let him know when
we would,
people want to go, and he'd try to get as many board members out there at the same time.
okay, so Noreen did circulate an email message, so just make sure you respond to her so we can set something up. And we'll try and get the Conservation Commission out there at the same time. And if you have to go out there a different date, then we'll organize that too.
whatever works out. Backing up on the other Harriman Heights project, the J squared,
Yes.
the half of those two lots were dominated by dying white ash. So we lost a lot of trees in the front part due to infrastructure. When we predicted that when we took one look at it. If you could take those types and do those replacement in the back, you probably do a homeowners a big service because those trees will be coming down next 10 years. They'll be all down, and why should that burden be put on the homeowner? You know.
Right.
And this type of trees that are there, they're tall trees. They're not going to restrict the activities in the backyard. You know, so it's not like putting a row of evergreens in which tend to take a tremendous amount of square footage. These trees will give you plenty of room underneath them. So and as you pointed out earlier, spacing those trees out is better for them anyway.
Yeah.
So I think if we could take that in consideration, because we did lose a lot of good, hickory, shagbark hickory, sugar maple, a few others in there, which are, stately trees. And
At the front, yeah,
and it's unfortunate the way that happened, but that's what happens.
yeah.
Just
Well,
to accommodate do the best we can. That's
okay.
it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So with that, we're going to do minutes. And Ashley and Sean, you may leave.
Right?
Good night. We'll see if we have enough. So we have May 18th.
8th, May 18th,
Are they all on our agenda? Oh, we held it over from the last meeting.
yeah, 2 were held over, 2 were
Right.
new. And I have July listed there, but I didn't get those done today, so you didn't get those. I had like a half hour left to finish. And then I had to get on to ZBA.
All right, agenda. All right, so which one are you saying is?
April 8th,
April 8th. April 8th. Thank you. Did I download this? April 8th? Yep. Okay. So, John, so we have a quorum to go through these. We had Verizon on. I think I went through these, didn't I? Yeah. Okay,
have a quorum last month.
okay. I am going to just quickly scroll through this. I'm going to assume that the members, if you did not review this and you don't want to vote, let me know. And we approve minutes, so, but I did look at these, I'm pretty sure. So, people good to vote? We're okay to go ahead and vote? All right, would someone make a motion to approve the April 8th, 2021 planning board minutes? Pat, may I have a second?
Second.
Lisa seconds. Noreen?
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Bonnie France,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Pat Shay.
Aye.
All right, which is next? May 18th. Why do I have 4/20? Oh, May, sorry. May 18th, there we go. Told you my mask affecting my brain. Build up.
We don't have a quorum for these.
One.
It's only myself, Pat, and Lisa
Oh,
who
yep.
were, so.
Okay,
we're
gotta
gonna have to
pass
hold
on
that
that.
one over.
Thank you. Next.
One is
That was an email from August 10th.
Have a quorum, that one?
the only
You have
one
it
absent
open?
Oh,
that night.
Anthony, I'm sorry, you're right. You guys are right.
Noreen minutes. It's not 6:15?
That one's
6:10?
next.
6:10,
Got them both.
okay, there we go. Just gonna files. Okay. So we still have a quorum for this to go through it. Mountain View Community Shul. They haven't come back to us, huh? The shul.
No.
Yeah, we need to take out just the MHE minutes in the middle. Okay. Well, we let Ashley.
Probably do abstain.
I think you can if you review it. I think it's up to you, Lisa, whether you want to. If you feel that you've reviewed it, you can. That's my recollection.
Mine too.
Cul-de-sac, that was for DG Management. Orange County West, that was Pat Brady. They have not returned either. Okay. Yeah, somehow the minutes, we have to take those out.
Well, I usually put C attached, but
I-
I changed that because they're not attaching on the program anyway.
Yeah, I would just, if you're going to put them at the very end, because
Okay.
they're kind of breaking up
No problem.
the flow, thank you. All right. So with that, if there are no revisions, would someone make a motion to approve the June 10th, 2021 Planning Board Workshop meeting minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Jeff, may I have a second?
I'll second it.
Anthony? So Noreen?
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
Elisa McQuaid.
Aye.
Right, and
Have June 15th. Lisa was absent for those, otherwise we're good.
downloaded. All right, so. Okay. So Lisa was absent, otherwise we can move forward on this. So Lisa, if you've reviewed them and you want to vote on it, you can?
No, I had only,
Okay. So this was Yoel Stossel returning. Had the Allison Drive application. I think Toro, by the way, is 2 Rs. No, it's 1?
Larry?
Really? I thought he was, I guess so. I thought he was 2.
I looked on either the plans or a business card I had of his.
Okay.
I'll double check.
Yeah, just check, just in case. Were there any proposed changes to these minutes? And we had DG management. And that was it. So with that, I will make a motion that we approve the June 15th, 2021 minutes. May I have a second?
Second.
Noreen?
Pat Shea?
I have a question.
Okay.
This is June? Anybody else
Were you
remember?
here?
Yeah. As far as I'm just reading my own words here. As
Oh,
far
yeah.
as the building floor plan, is there a way to evaluate and make sure there's enough space for the desks that are going to be placed?
What page are you on?
I don't know.
Right, but which,
Page 3 of 5.
3 of 5,
At the top of 4 or 5, actually.
top of, okay?
Are those my words, or does anybody else remember talking about that?
No, I do the video to make sure I had the members' names right.
Okay, then
I think you were concerned because of the size of the rooms and the egress and,
And what the maximum capacity could be.
right.
Occupancy.
okay, thanks. So we could go ahead with the roll.
Pat Shea, Jeff Hansen,
Aye. Yeah.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
and Lisa McQuaid.
abstain.
Thank you.
Okay. And,
That's it.
we're good? All right, so we should be getting July's.
August you'll have for the first.
Oh, August, I want to see it, though.
I'll get it to
You
you
get me
soon
the draft?
as I can.
Okay,
I just gotta get some ZBAs done by Tuesday.
okay. All right. Yeah, I'm trying to stay within that 5 days.
I know.
Okay. All right, so with that, board members have any comments or anything they want to share with the board?
Something quickly from last night's town board meeting. I know you guys discussed 81 Raywood Drive on Thursday, and the town board resolved last night to, I guess, accept the maintenance agreement and requested the supervisor, or gave the supervisor authority to sign off on that once it's meeting in the form that's acceptable to council. So that's moving along.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Anyone want to raise? All right. So, again, just remember to look at the EAF in case we need to make changes before that gets circulated. That's a biggie that we're going to be reviewing, so we just need to make sure we have all the studies lined up as far as what we need to do And we'll have to do a determination of significance, whether we want them to do EIS or if we can do like an expanded EAF, so. All right, so with that, I will make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any